We'll open up the meeting for the Wright County Board of Adjustments of August 7th, 2020. Barry, do you have something to bring forward first?
I got a couple of things to add to the back end of the agenda. The first item will be a discussion on changing the hearing date. And then the second will be a closed session with Scott Anderson regarding legal action that was just wrapped up.
Mr. Chair, that would be on the Deers or keeper where it says Wright County Board of Adjustments and the Deers Corporation on a variance matter under court file 86 CB 195502.
All right, thank you, Greg. Anything else, Barry, you need to add?
That would be all for the additions. So the next part would be to move into the minutes.
Yep. Next on the agenda would be the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Has everybody been able to look those over? And if so, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Dan Vick, aye.
All aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
Dan Mall, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. First on the agenda is Bulky Properties LLC.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll take that right away. The matter has been continued so that the applicant can get back to the town board. They were working through some issues with that cartway, trying to get that more formalized. At the last township meeting, I did talk to the representative for the property owner. The township gave them specs on, the level that the cartway would have to be built at. They wanted time to take it back, get some quotes and bids on, see how much all this is gonna cost them before they came back to the board. So they did sign the 1599, 120-day waiver. I did get a signed copy of that, and so we don't have any issues with our timeframes for getting the decisions done, and so I do have a motion to continue it in your packet.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue the Balky Properties to the next September meeting. The date on that?
Fourth.
Huh?
Fourth.
The 4th.
Okay, I've got a motion made and seconded. Charlotte seconded it. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Dan Vick, aye.
All aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll continue.
Yeah, next one would be
Number
Cheney.
2 will be Joe Cheney.
Ready for Cheney?
You want to give your name?
Yeah, Joe Cheney. Paul Otto.
All right. Barry, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, this matter was continued from the last meeting. At that meeting, the board, in the end, requested that the applicant go back and revise to get a 150-foot lake setback or see what's possible for that. We have received revised plans, and rather than me summarizing, I'll let the applicant go through what they have here. Well, of note, they did at least verbally drop the request for the shed at this time. So
Okay.
that was the other part of it. So now we're dealing with the house and the septic itself.
Okay.
Thanks, Barry. The plan you have up is an old one.
I thought it was you.
So,
I can't pull
so our, so we looked at what's there, and if you pull 150, there's a spot that's 20 by 50. If you would draw a rectangle, that's all the room there is. That's just not gonna be reasonable on a parcel like this. So what we did is we took the house that we had and we put it, You can put this up there,
Yeah,
Barry, but.
I'll get, it's gonna be,
Okay.
we'll get a better
A-
picture. if I
anyway-
do it this way, so just give me, I'll get it up. Keep
So
talking.
basically, we tried to position it so it covered the majority of that 50 by 20 area. And we ended up with setbacks 130.9 on the west, 139 kind of northeast, and 148 to the southeast. So we tried to kind of even it out in there. It actually ends up putting it over the back of that hill, if you remember being out there. The hill, and then it's kind of over the back, and then we are proposing a lookout. So we've raised it up and then fill in the grade around it, and it actually will fit in pretty well. There is a detail on my plan showing that as well, as far as the lookout. The positioning is kind of still the same way that we had it before.
We could show you guys this one too, if you want.
I have a copy of,
Oh,
Oh, you got
Good
the
copy,
latest
yeah.
one? Okay.
I was in the staff report, so.
Okay. The septic and all that stuff didn't change, but the, there you go. So you can kind of see that we're just trying to plop the majority of the house in that biggest area there and average out those setbacks best we can. We feel this is, you know, on a 10-acre parcel, a good use. You start to get too small and, you know, what are you really gonna get there? So I guess we would ask for that consideration.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public on, Barry?
Not for this request.
Okay, being there's nobody on for this, we'll start. Charlotte, do you want to start?
Sure. I don't think that a house this size is reasonable for this lot. We asked for 150-foot setback, which is what the shoreline rules allow, and there was no effort made to downsize the house or attach garage to meet that. Considering all this, that the house at this size includes, which is a theater and walk-in closet that's bigger than my bedroom and all sorts of amenities, I find it very hard to believe that this could not be downsized to meet a 150-foot setback. So that's where I stand.
Just hold on until I get through everybody. Okay, do you have anything else, Charlotte?
In the discussions, some other setback is discussed. If people want to talk about 140-foot setback, I've listened to it, but otherwise I'm staying at 150-foot.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Dan?
Oh, well, I was okay with it last time, and I wonder, what was the setback when it was permitted before? What were the setbacks?
The Board of Adjustment variance was for 100 feet.
Was for 100
in
feet?
1999.
Okay, and again, I think you guys did a good job of trying to get it as close to what they asked for, so I'm okay with it. I think, you know, it's passed once at 100 and you purchased the property after knowing that, and then it was past time. I think that's more than reasonable at 136, 130, 136. That's what
I was in favor of it before, and I think you made an improvement, but Charlotte does bring on a good point.
Yes.
You know, I would have been nice to see it downsized a little bit. I mean, her observation on the size of the closet, for example, is a good one, but I'm just throwing that out there for next time. But I was comfortable with before, and you've even made it better, so I'll go for it.
And I'm probably the one on the edge here, but coming up with, we asked for the 150 and holding there, and by reconfiguring and doing what you did improve upon it, and it previously was permitted at 100, and I went along with 100. I just wasn't there. But we're within 10 to 15 feet now of the 150, and I guess that's why we're here to give variances. And And to build a house out there, to put in a small house, I mean, I'm with Charlotte on the same way. You have a very large house, but that's a unique piece of property. And I think to put in a smaller cabin type house or smaller, it's a beautiful piece of property. If you put in the right house there, it's going to fit the landscape. And that's what we're supposed to do here too, is to try to make it fit the community and fit the landscape. And so I guess I can go along with what they're proposing. So, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Is there any other comment up here? Otherwise, I guess we would be ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance of 155.026, 155.048, 155.057, 155.90, or 0C, Table 3, and 155.095, Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage Zoning of Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow construction. Sorry,
Do you want me to help you out with this?
that'd be great. Thank you.
So I'll just,
Okay.
I'm just kind of thinking through, it's like, well, if you're gonna read the motion, well, then we're just gonna have to go in and make a whole bunch of edits. So how about we go with, to approve the construction of a dwelling as per the plan submitted, marked Exhibit A, and revised survey submitted, marked Exhibit B, for a new dwelling to be 130.9 feet, 139 feet, and 148 feet from National Environment Lake.
So noted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
Some discussion, do we want some conditions? For instance, on this one, it's, you know, with the slope to the west being higher, just put it in the motion, you know, no walkout to the west, it's gonna limit the amount of excavation. There's gonna need to be some fill just because of elevation requirements, but at least that'll remove the excavation part, which that's, situation like this, the more important piece. You're not digging out, removing trees to get these walkout elevations, and or bringing fill in just to pull and push everything up to get a walkout. And so, you know, no walkout to the west. They're talked with, you know, Paul a bit, and there's ability to do walkouts here, but it's just to the west. It's just the highest spot is to the west. And then just tree removal in accord with the ordinance must be followed, which no clear cutting within that one, the first one.
Discuss.
So I would
Second that.
note that no clear cutting, no altering of the land or the hill to the west. So noted.
That's okay with you two also, Dan?
Yes, second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. We'll take a roll call vote.
I, Dan Vick.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
No,
Dan Mal? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you
Thank you.
for all your time.
Bless you guys.
Oh, the last meeting, I got the title of, what did John call me, Motion Man?
Dan,
Yep.
did I hear Charlotte as a name?
That's good that you do that.
Yeah, Charlotte isn't,
Grab
I'm
my
sorry, I should have
2.0s,
repeated that.
can't see. They're blurry.
Okay, number. All right, do you want to give your name?
Melanie Harrington.
All right,
And then we also have Nate Harrington on the WebEx call.
okay. Barry, when you're ready?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued for township review. The board did go over just the general basics of the request. I'll kind of go over them again. What we're dealing with is a 17,109 square foot lot on Maple Lake. The request is for a couple of main level additions, which would be just off the main level towards the roadside, a new entry on the roadside, and a new second story above the existing one-story structure, and then a deck that coincides with that. The structure, if you see on the survey, is located within the bluff. The bluff kind of goes through that southwest corner of the structure. Lake setbacks being met, the east side property line's at 10.9 feet. The board wanted some information at the last meeting on two things, kind of the neighboring structures, and then also information on, stormwater management, because in this case, there is a fairly significant slope. It's, 60, 70 feet above the lake, and it's fairly steep for most of it. Where the house is located is for the most part, the nicest as far as elevation, the least amount of difference in elevation, but it is still, in the technical consideration, still a bluff over that southwest corner. So we did receive some updated information on both the neighboring structures and the stormwater management plan. I'm going to run through those as well. If the board recalls, they're also looking at reducing the impervious surface. Existing site is over the 25%, and they'd be bringing it down to 24.9 through removal of concrete and other things that were on site. So as noted here, you can kind of see the applicant has provided some updated information on what kind of neighboring structures look like, view from the lake and where the lot is located. Again, here's the kind of that other neighboring structures, the profiles of them. This is the roadside view, that upper left photo. It shows, there's story and a half, one's two-story in there, but, story and a half is a little bit more prevalent in this area, as well as some rain garden and stormwater management information. It would use rain barrels on the east side of the structure, and then a rain garden over the other portion of the structure. The one thing I did talk with the applicant about, we did have a rain garden similar to this on Lake Sylvia here recently, where that rain garden is located is technically within the bluff. And so one of the issues with rain gardens and bluffs is, these things are designed for a 1-inch rain. Well, what happens if you get a 2-inch rain? Or it could be designed for 1.5 inches. What happens with any overflow if you exceed that number, whatever that number is? Well, in this case, it's going to run down the bluff, and now instead of, running off a roof and then kind of working its way down the bluff, it's going to be channelized, because now you've put it all into, a 10 by 15 foot spot. It fills up. It's going to find the weakest and lowest point in that rain garden and start running up. Well, then you risk also compromising the integrity of the rain garden itself, the walls of that, because those walls on this particular case, it's not like it's a depression built down. It's a combination of down and up. And so that downslope slide has to be built up to create your depression. And so that's all going to be fill soils. Level of compaction becomes an issue, because if you don't compact it well enough, once that water starts running, it's going to, how is it going to be able to maintain itself in that location? So talking with the applicant, well, what should I do? Is there another location? Is there something else I should do? And I said, well, right now, no. Let's bring this to the board. Let's get the board's opinion of the rain garden and the location. I have some concerns with it, but like I told her, I'm no rain garden expert. And so I don't know. I would leave that to others to say it'll be fine or it won't. I just do have some concerns because of that, what happens with that overflow. Unless you put an overflow pipe in it and then, bring it down the slope so it outlets down at the bottom with some type of spillway, that's about the only way to control that overflow. If you get those larger rain events. Otherwise, we get 1 or 2 inch rains all the time. And so it's going to happen at some point where it's going to overflow. We should, in a case like this where you're dealing with this much slope and the volume, I would like to see myself either change location or do some type of drain tile outlet that brings it down to the bottom versus running, just,
Erosion.
you know, there are some that work just fine, it'll just.
Spill over.
If it spills over, and we just had the one on Lake Mary, if that one spills over, there's some areas where it's going to collect versus just running right down the hill. In this case, it's got no place else to go. It's going to go downhill, and it's gonna go downhill 60 feet. So, 50 feet in this case, actually. The rain garden's at 149, the OHW is 101.58 or something like that. 1.2. Right around there, right around 1,000 feet. So it's gonna go downhill 40 to 50 feet, fairly sharply, and it's the erosion control, because now we took it, basically, it's like you're running a gutter from your roof right into the bluff, and that's gonna pick up, it channelizes, picks up volume and speed, which that's where your gullies and that kind of, your worst erosion comes from. In this case, you'd be better off doing just, rather than a rain garden in this location, just do the native vegetative, you know, buffer strip and try to slow it down before it really clears the hill. Charlotte, do you have any thoughts? You're more.
I sure do.
I kind of figured you did.
I have lots, pardon?
I kind of figured you did.
I agree. I think that as much as I like rain gardens, it's not a good spot for it. It's generally not good to put them in the slope. However, I think that their idea of the native meadow there in that area where the slope is left between where the slope really starts going down in the house is a good idea. And if it can be made even wider going towards the house, that would be better. Because with native long-rooted plants, a lot of water will, as that grows, infiltrate in that area, and those plants will grow down. And then rather than having a rain garden collecting water that needs to be excavated, and the water collection will probably need to stabilize the slope, I would put in a series of check dams along the slope. You know, they don't have to be big, just periodic piles of fieldstone or some such. So you're not building anything up with dirt or anything like that. You're just putting in fieldstone, check dams, maybe 3 or 4 of them to slow down the water as it goes down the slope. And at a certain point, the velocity and force of the storm water should dissipate, and they won't be needed as you get further down the slope. And if they're all the way across or staggered across the width of the property, then you don't have the channelization. Those are my thoughts.
All right,
We did do
My other thought, pardon?
go ahead, Charlotte. Finish.
My other thought is, for the rain garden, they were only figuring for about a third or less of the water coming off the roof, allocating all the rest to rain barrels, and they're only figuring 2 rain barrels. The rain barrel holds 54 gallons of water. Those rain barrels aren't going to be enough. I would have a series of rain barrels.
Sure.
okay, anything else, Charlotte?
That's it. And maybe rain barrel off the garage as well, since any rain coming off the garage is going to go down the slope as well. Now that's it.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Dan?
All right. Well, I know one of my concerns last meeting was if the footings were allowed for that second story on it. I hope you checked into that, because I would hate to say, yeah, go ahead and then get to it and, oh no, these footings, and start digging in the bluff. So that was my biggest concern. I think the water concerns will be handled by you and others, so if you want to tell me about that.
Yeah, on the footings, so I don't have a definitive answer on that piece yet.
Okay.
We have engaged with a structural engineering firm that is coming actually on site next week to look at
Cause I see it so many times that we start and then, oh no, this ain't gonna do it, we gotta dig in. And that
We
would
just
be,
had that one line that had that.
so I'd like to at least see that verified that that's gonna be before any excavating. That would be probably the rest of the water thing, I think you'll be able to handle that.
Yep.
I see an overflow and stuff would be really nice down there, just drain it down to a controlled area, like you were
I
saying.
do know there is a unfinished basement under portion of it, so that has proper footings. It's more that eastern addition. What exactly is underneath that? Is that correct? That's-
Correct.
I understood it. That's the way the assessor's folder show it.
Yeah.
There's basement under one portion, the other portion does not have. Now, it was a somewhat recent addition to it.
1990 was
Yeah,
the,
1990 is when the variance was granted for that one level addition. So it got the permit, so it should be properly inspected and everything else.
Okay.
So I would assume it's good, but there again,
It's Minnesota, it moves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be- but there again, at least if the base of that is there, you know, then there's always that chance, well, you can pick it up, replace your footing, set it back down too. I mean, always.
Yeah,
It's
it's just,
complicated, but it is possible. I've seen that quite a bit, where
Yeah.
they'll just lift the whole structure up, do whatever repairs, and then set it back down.
I would change my idea though on the whole permitting thing if it's interfering with the bluff there and then you're excavating in that area, but, so that's,
which, and again, that's back behind the bluffs line.
That portion.
yeah.
That portion is, yes.
Yeah, but I know how that goes, it gets big.
Okay. Well, we can't go too far. There's a septic over there too, so.
Thank you.
Paul?
You make our job easy. Thank you. You did a nice job answering my questions. It does fit in. That was one of my concerns
Sure.
with the surrounding communities. And I do agree with my other board members that the rain garden is not the answer in this case. I like Charlotte's idea of having a series of check dams in place
Yeah.
and some natural prairie or field vegetation in that area. So I'm not sure how we would word that in, but maybe Charlotte could, she made the motion.
Well, I guess my,
Go ahead, sorry, I'm done.
okay, then, I concur with all the other board members, what's being brought up. I don't know that I can add a whole lot more to it. But my question is, Dan, do you want, if they're meeting with the structural engineer, I know we're continuing it, or I'm suggesting that, to get your assurances there. And then on Charlotte's side, do you, Charlotte, want to see some type of a drawing, how they would do that with some type of a water filtration system with check dams, for lack of a better word, and how they would do that down that slope, Charlotte, without giving them just saying do it and then not knowing how they're going to do it?
I don't know what exactly they would show on a plan that I would need a plan for. Check dams are only, couple feet high, just to slow down the water.
Okay, I'm just was asking what, what you're comfortable with, Charlotte.
I'm comfortable in saying a series of check dams, down the slope as far as necessary to dissipate the, force of the velocity of the water, and then let staff, deal with it.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
And Dan, to
Dan.
answer your concern, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, staff.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with staff too, if they issue the permit, but I just wanted that to be brought up, that
Okay.
I would not be okay with it if they're gonna be doing any excavating in the bluff area, or close to it even, really, so.
And then the only other thing I would bring up would be the impervious. I mean, if somebody were to make a motion, that has to be stated in there, that the impervious must stay under the 25. I mean, they're projecting 24.9,
Yeah,
but I would like, whoever makes a motion, that it would be stated in there, impervious must stay under the 25% or stay in compliance.
So I do have one,
Yes, Charlotte?
If in the motion, there could be a requirement for an as-built survey, so that then we know exactly what the impervious is after construction, that should do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be something where we'd want it done within a certain time after the final, because most of the final landscaping done after. you know,
That could be
buildings
next
already-
year.
already been final. So
Yeah.
Usually it's, well, let's give them time frame after final inspection and certificate of occupancy, get that done, because that way they'll have time to finish off their landscaping work around the home, plant their grass, you know, all the concrete. They're also doing some work, they're changing that access down to the lake. I mean, that was all part of that original submission. Stairs going down, that kind of thing. The one question I have for you, Charlotte, is you mentioned, you know, the low meadow. What are your thoughts on like that, like more the native prairie buffer or native grass buffer? You know, what are you thinking for like a width of that strip type of thing? I'm looking at the survey and I have kind of some things in mind just to make it so, well, we're not just, I'll just do this. Get it a little bit more, well, this is what needs to be done. And so, you know, based on the survey, that elevation 1040 on the survey is pretty much where the slope really picks up going down towards the lake. So I'm thinking, well,
I would maybe.
how many feet back from that would you want?
10 feet forward of the house from that.
How many? How many feet?
Does that make sense?
10 feet, she said.
10 feet from
So
what?
I would say 10 feet back from that 1040 elevation would be my thought.
Between the house and where it starts now to 1042.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that first 10 feet house side of that elevation would be what I was kind of thinking. Whatever the distance, you know,
Okay,
I was
great.
thinking 10 or 15 feet.
Okay.
Roadside or house side of that 1040 elevation, because that 1040 is pretty distinct, that is, at least when you look at that survey, that 1040 is very, that's,
They already have it plotted in between the 1040 and 1042. I would make it 10 feet wider from 1042 towards the house.
okay.
Okay. Is there any other, Barry, is there anyone from the public on?
Only if Nate, the applicant's husband is the only other one on, so unless Nate has more to add, still muted, so.
Okay, there's nobody from the public that has any comment? Is there any other discussion up here? Otherwise, I think we'd be ready.
Just 1 second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Oh, he remuted himself. Apparently he's good.
Okay. He would speak up if he had something to say.
I think we would be ready for a motion,
I can try.
unless Barry, with all of this, do you want
I'll
to?
give it a whirl here.
Oh, okay.
Been making notes.
I'll see, I'm taking notes here, see if I got it right. All right, so, I make a motion to approve the variance for 155.006, 155.008, 155.026, 155.049, F3, and 155.057E to construct a new addition on the roadside dwelling, a 14 by 20 and a half and by 6 by 9 mudroom addition, and a new 20 by 0.5 by 38 foot second story addition onto the existing one level that is within the bluff and 10 feet 7 inches from the side property line. The existing impervious coverage must not exceed 25%. An as-built survey to be done with additional rain barrels to be installed on the house, as well as rain barrel being installed on the garage. A series of check dams are to be installed on the bluff to slow the stormwater runoff, along with a native prairie buffer. This one need help 10 feet wider back from 10 feet from the 1040 elevation, 1042 elevation mark. I missed it.
Time period
Oh.
on, for the survey? How long after will you give them?
1 year after what?
Well, you know, so much of this depends upon when the house gets finished. You know, if it gets finished in November, well, then 6 months might not be enough. You know, no cover and everything else.
With construct, I would give them 1 year from completion of construction. for the landscape and get that survey done.
And just for discussion, how would we confirm that before they?
Well, we've got a motion, I've got to get a second.
Let's finish the motion, get a second.
I will add that 1 year after the completion, that the as-built survey be done.
Okay. I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it for
I'll
discussion.
second.
Okay, Charlotte has the second. All right, for discussion?
For discussion, I just want to confirm that that is not going to be tampered with any, the footings would have to be somewhat inspected or have somebody come by and
Correct.
confirm that.
Yeah.
Before you proceed very far? Can you add that to the motion?
Yeah.
Well, there again, what you could do is, I mean, this is as submitted, so if significant footing work to be done, you might want to re-review. That's kind of what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah, because I know these things get passed and then all of a sudden, once it gets started, you can't say, oh, no, you can't do it, but then they're not right. And, so that would be just a big concern that,
So do we make a new motion with that added?
You can just add that as a condition.
and that,
I'll put it in as a condition.
yeah.
Okay, and the condition is that,
The footings are pre-inspected that it will accept upstairs all the way around, so there'll be no excavating.
I'll add an amendment to the motion that the footings be inspected to verify that they're structurally adequate.
Is that good with you, Charlotte?
I couldn't hear what was said, that I assumed it was about inspection.
It was about the footing inspections, making sure that the footings, before anything happens, that the footings are inspected to make sure that it would sustain the addition.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Excavation in the bluff, I know I heard somebody say that. No excavation in the bluff, Paul, did you include that?
No, I did not.
No house excavation. There's gonna be some with some of the other work that they're
Do we leave that
changing
out?
the stairs, that kind of thing. It's gonna involve some excavation and fill. This would just be in relation to the
To the
house
footing.
construction itself.
Yeah.
So I guess my question was, I know,
No rework, I guess we could put it on, right? The new additions are gonna have to take some excavating, but no rework of the existing, otherwise it'd have to be redone.
Back to the board.
But do our plans show that? I mean,
Does?
we had it as plans submitted, so I mean, we should be good there. We shouldn't have to change the motion or do anything else.
Okay.
Okay?
I think we're good.
Yep.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote.
Dan Vick, aye.
All aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dan Mall? Aye. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you.
Yeah, and if it's not good, I'll just complain about it later. So.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next on the agenda is Jeff House. You want to give your names for the record?
Jeff House.
Bernie Miller. All right. Gary, when you're ready.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, what we're dealing with is a 12,875 square foot lot on Lake John. Give me just a second, I'm gonna pull out a survey. The request is, in this particular case too, it's one of those situations where there is actually 66 feet of platted road right of way. But the road is not within the right of way, or not completely. It's primarily on the backside of a lot of these lakeshore lots. And so the lot size that was given is based on the area that's calculated for the impervious surface coverage. So it's 12,875 square feet. The existing structure is located 45 feet, it's a one-story, and then it's closer to property lines than what is approved, and there's also an existing detached garage. The proposal is to basically redo the entire site, do a new, my numbers are off here, a new 1,200 square foot two-story dwelling, 610 square foot attached garage that would move back 20 feet, be 65 feet from the OHW, 11 feet from the north line, 14 feet from the south property line, and 65 feet from the traveled road. Property would have a type 4 septic system that's 5 feet from the edge of the traveled road. Now again, from the right of way, it's fine, but since the traveled road actually has moved over onto their property, the system itself, the treatment area itself is going to be 5 feet off the traveled surface. Now that's not necessarily a variance matter, but on a rework site like this, it's something that is, you know, pertinent to the board's conversation, because you might want to put in a condition, you know, put boulders there or something so it keeps people from veering off the road and driving over the septic. That's why that specific piece is mentioned. Because there is no setback from the traveled surface. It's from property lines and right-of-way lines for septics. There's nothing from an actual traveled surface. So that's why it's listed, but it's not a true variance, but it's something that should be considered by the board when you're. Yeah, as noted, I do have the septic site plan that shows all of the information on where the structure is going to be located, the septic system, the actual hard surface number is going to be met. The roof surface is going to be maxed, so there's no room for much anything else other than the house and the attached garage. So maxed out site. Here are the elevation drawings for the site showing two-story on the main house. The two-story does not extend over the garage. The garage is still just a standard one level. There is no living space above the garage itself. And then the plans for floor plans and cross-section, and then pictures of the existing structure. We did receive approval from the township. They approved it as it was submitted. It should be noted that the impervious surface is also dropping from 30% to 25%. Lot coverage, as mentioned, will drop from 18.8.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'll just add a few things here. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the house, if you look at the plan of where the existing house is and the garage, it's kind of basically just pulling them both back and attaching them. The existing place, 37.2 feet off the lake. I mean, I think that's actually the patio out front there.
Yeah, that's the patio.
So it's, you know, a much of an improvement. You know, I think initially they came in and they didn't have the jog in the house where the north line of the house just went straight across, but I couldn't make it work and get the septic to fit. So we basically have shoved everything as far back as we possibly can away from the lake and try to make everything fit in there the best we can. And that's what we got, you know. I mean, I think they've, with the house and that, we've got it down to, under the 15% impervious drop in that much. And then the reason for the side yard variance on the one side is just because of the
It's
fireplace.
because the fireplace bumps out a foot.
Just bumps out a foot.
Otherwise,
so,
the main structure is only, or is 15 feet away.
yeah.
All right. Barry, do we have anybody from the public?
No, we don't.
All right, we'll start with Dan.
Okay. For me, I really can't see on there. I got double vision. I grabbed the wrong glasses. I couldn't tell really where the other house was, and I know you're saying you're moving it back and stuff, but it looks like we're so close on impervious. It's almost like I'd like to see that site. It just gives me a better perspective of it all the time.
So you can you see this up here where this part right
Yep.
here?
Okay.
That's the existing.
Okay.
This is deck, patio. So, tuck back.
And that'll all be removed.
Yeah.
But it looks like you're keeping
That's
the
all
deck
coming
then?
out.
There?
No,
Everything's.
that's all coming out.
Okay.
Everything's coming off there. And the other thing to note on here is when he said the site's maxed out, I did include an allowance.
Yes.
175 square foot allowance.
Okay.
So in a case like this, when they're close to 25%, this gives the people an idea. And vary if someone has to go out and inspect that. If there's more than 175 square feet outside of the driveway in the house, then they're over.
Right.
I mean, they know. I mean, it's easy for a contractor to say, well, how wide, where do you want sidewalk, how big a deck you can have, you got 175 square.
Right, they're limited to what they can do.
They're not saying
And-
they're gonna necessarily do that.
Right.
But,
And they're fine with that on the lakeside, they prefer more grass.
Okay.
They don't want a big patio. It's
I
kind
do
of,
see you got a little hardship there with the road being on your side, so it pushes you back there.
right,
I
right.
understand that. I wish I could see out of these glasses.
And that is the one thing, in a situation like this with that 175 feet, the only kind of issue is gonna be, there's two patio doors off the lakeside, and then there's an access door, between the garage and the edge of the house. And so you need some type of walkway from that door to the driveway.
Right.
And, doing that in and of itself is gonna eat up, a fair amount of that space. And so that means those two patio doors, unless you do geotextile fabric and mulch or something
Right.
like that, P-rock, there's gonna be no concrete or paver areas lakeside. I mean, there just can't be.
Right,
Because
no,
there's
and they're
just
fine
physically
with
not
that.
enough space.
Yep,
Well, although we did have an applicant, on a couple of previous meetings, they're doing a wood chip walkway to get to their house. And the board was specific, you must do that,
sure.
otherwise you have problems, so.
And the other thing is, what are the other houses in the neighborhood? Are they two-story or are they?
It's a lot of one-stories. I think it was 1 story and 1.5 stories are, I think, the most prevalent. So the house directly to the,
South?
that'd be the south is, I think that's 1.5 stories. Go ahead.
Oh.
I'll pull up some more information. I'll pull up the pictometry so you can get that complete view, and you should be able to see.
Right, think,
It's always nice to fit in with the neighborhood though, that's why that.
Right, right. No, and they understand that.
Okay.
and I think that's part of why the garage doesn't have the bonus over it.
Right.
Yeah, I know you've done some drawings or plans that have kind of incorporated that into 1.5 stories. To think of, but.
okay, Paul?
I think you did a great job. You've improved, reduced impervious coverage a lot, looks like, and you've moved the house back significantly and improved the side setbacks. I think it really meets the spirit of how the rules and regulations are to improve future development on a lake. And I'm, like Dan, always a little concerned about the impact and the height that it might have, but in your case, I think we moved far back enough so that height would be somewhat reduced, that impact a little bit. And you have, enough room there, a little extra for impervious coverage changes. I mean, you have your sidewalk in and everything, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and actually, that neighboring house to the south is actually a.
Right.
Okay.
And
Charlotte?
they're actually up on the hill a little bit further.
Charlotte?
Yeah, I was wondering, whether there was any reason why the house couldn't be pushed back to need a setback of 70 feet from the OHW. Decreasing the setback from the road, but that's less of a consideration than the OHW. That would decrease the amount of impervious, which would give them a greater allowance for walkways, if it's 25%.
Wasn't it because of the
I don't
septic?
see any impediment moving it
Well,
slightly back 5 feet, is there?
Yeah, the one impediment would be, if you're gonna do that, you almost then have to slide the garage farther north to the property line. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to use the garage. It's,
Oh, I see the driveway.
yeah, there's gonna be a garage stall there that you're not gonna be able to use because that's, the septic is where the septic has to be.
Right.
There is no other option for the septic, and so, I looked at that too, it's like, is there any way to make improvement here? Well, the only thing is to shove the entire thing farther north to that north property line, then you might have a little bit of room. So it's one of those, how much are you gaining for it?
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to position and size that drain field and the driveway and moving the house back and forth. And, I mean, the tanks right now, everything, right now we can avoid a variance for the tanks. If you move it, we're gonna have to move, closer to the property line, with the tanks. And I mean, it would cause other variances, and right now I think it's gonna be really hard to even get in that garage the way it is.
Like,
And.
There's room, but
Yeah, I
it's,
just want to have a question, I understand the answer.
Yes, okay, thank you.
In that case, given the considerable variances needed for the OHW, I'd like them to create a permanent major shoreline buffer at least 25 feet deep, that would help mitigate the setback variance. And that would be along the entire shoreline except for a 25-foot opening that could be used for recreational docks, whatever. And that's what we usually use for mitigation.
Anything?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Charlotte.
Can we see the picture of the shoreline there? Holding ahead. So in this case, I mean, the fact that there's, but if you look at the elevations, there's, it's so flat, out to them trees. Yeah, I don't know. I can see the concerns and issues on other lakes getting closer. I know that's a great idea, doing something. I just think 25, I just think that's a little bit extreme in certain situations, and especially where it's flat. I can see some of these places, are marginal bluffs and you're going closer to the lake, and, you might need maybe 25 feet ain't enough on some of them, you know what I mean? But some like this, essentially we're moving back, we're not increasing, we're decreasing everything, I just don't know that, I understand it, but I feel like that's maybe a little bit too, maybe a little bit too.
What, and you could probably answer this.
Is there turf grass all the way to the shoreline now?
Yes, there's turf right to the shoreline, and then on the picture, it drops off maybe a foot there. You have large field rock to hold the shoreline.
Yeah, I don't want to see turf all the way, to the shoreline.
I guess my question would be, what are the neighbors at?
as far
I mean,
as,
is the neighbors turf to the shoreline?
I
Are
believe
any of the
so.
neighbors for 4 or 5 down have the wild?
No, I
Or
think
is
it's
it basically grass along that whole side of the shoreline?
I think the neighbor to the north is supposed to be native, because he got a variance for that addition. I think he's supposed to, if I remember right, he was supposed to have a native.
the one on the north might have something, I think, or the south, but I think the ones on the north are grass.
there's,
Let me look.
Okay, yeah, if you could pull that up, Barry. I guess I'll start from here. I guess I really like what you've done. I mean, I would concur with Paul and Dan and Charlotte, what's been said, but you actually did what a lot of times I wish more applicants would do. You basically took down and started over, moved back instead of adding on and doing, you've increased the setbacks to the lake, you've made the sewer fit. This lot, I mean, the hardship with the lot is a lot. It's only so big. We can only put so much on this. And, with the chimney coming out the side or the fireplace out the side for a foot, I mean, that's That's acceptable in my mind. And with the garage positioning and where the sewer is, I mean, with the size of the lot, that's necessary. I mean, so, and as far as, you know, the native grasses going to the lake, I'm more concerned absolutely with the lake and the sediment, like Charlotte's talking about, but on the same token, I don't know that I want to have one lot on Lake John that looks woolly and needs a haircut, where everybody else is groomed well, and it changes the aesthetics of the neighborhood. You know, and that's what we're supposed to be looking at also, but we also have to try to protect the lake and the water.
The neighbor to the north was required to do a 15-foot buffer back from the lake with a 25% recreational area. I can't tell from the assessor's photos, the only assessor photo that's lake shore that looks at that area is from prior to the addition being built. And so I don't know if it's that way now or not. I would have to go out and inspect it. If it's not, I'll have to notify them that do that. That was from 2017. Their variance. So I'll go back to the aerial. So that would be that they got a variance for that it's a porch addition, screen porch, 4-season porch that sticks out to the north. They got a variance for that in 2017. Like I said, they were required to do a 15-foot buffer, not a 25, but a 15 in there. Just that's the factual.
Okay.
Barry?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, although 25 feet is what the DNR recommends, I would change my recommendation to give it wide be consistent with that neighbor.
That would probably be roughly consistent with where those trees are in the photo. And so, I mean, to me, that is where where there is slope, that would be where the slope is, so that would make sense to me. 25 feet would bring it back almost to where that, you know, it'd be 10 feet from where the porch is now, which would be, you know, quite a ways up onto the flat. So, I mean, this is the area where you're gonna have more of the run of water, you know, pick up speed, pick up debris, and so that would make the most sense.
Okay, is there anything else you want to add, Charlotte?
No, that's it. Buffers along the shoreline are important to filter out all the impurities, the pollutants. That's how we get all these various, high phosphorus lakes with algae blooms because of stormwater. And so mitigating that and having the longer it lasts with the buffer, filtering out impurities from the stormwater, the sediments from the stormwater, is really important. Having perks right up to the shoreline is really bad lake practice.
Okay. Any other comments here?
That's it.
Is there anybody on from the public? Barry, I didn't ask that yet.
No.
Okay, Bernie?
Yeah, so, it sounds like, I don't know. I mean, if Charlotte said, I don't know if I heard you say initially 25% or 25 feet of.
25 feet.
No, not a buffer, but
But
of
the recreation was
recreation
25
area.
feet.
Yeah.
How
which
much is a lot?
70, well, it's, if you take the angle of it, it's 70 feet, so, that's whatever, 30-some%, whatever. So, I mean, if they able to leave 25 feet, the other key thing is, if you put this 25 feet in the wrong spot, it's less effective, you know what I mean? I mean, like I think to Larry and Lois Jensen's, we put it on the sides where all the water went, right? Then that makes more sense, but.
Well, in their case, that's so much different though, because they had recreational amenities. You know,
Yes.
they had a patio, they had a boathouse, so that's where they
Yeah,
had stuff
but-
built up. So this one's a little bit different, but
This-
you are right, it's where it goes,
The
basically.
point I'm making is you could divert all the water to the recreation area and the grass can do nothing. So I'm just saying that it needs to be, need to be thoughtful when it comes to how, the water, if anything, is, naturally already diverted that way, that's where you
Yeah, that's where we
put,
put it.
because it looks to me like this shore's the same kind of all the way across, so.
So here, I don't think it would do a whole, it wouldn't really matter as much on this particular site, just because it is fairly uniform all the way across. Unless something's done on the site that changes that.
I think it, yeah, it just looks a little bit like it could possibly be on the north, more drainage between the neighbors. And-
Which is fine, because like in this case, the fire pit is on the south line.
Yeah, so,
So I would say, yeah, to have the 25% being on the north.
and is it 25% or 25 feet?
Sorry, 25 feet.
Yeah. So if it's 25 feet, I think that's good.
Is there any other discussion?
I have a question for Charlotte. Charlotte, did you
Yeah.
change from 25 feet buffer to a 15-foot buffer to match the neighbor? She did.
The split of it back from the shoreline, yes, we said 15 feet for somebody who's an almost adjacent neighbor and like to be consistent.
Okay, that's what I
I
want.
prefer 25 feet, but if another neighbor has 15 feet, I'd like to be consistent with that.
Okay,
If they don't now, they will.
I can go along with that. so.
Any other discussion? If not, I think we're ready for a motion, if somebody would like to present one. Charlotte, do you want to present a motion?
Just hold on. I have to scroll back up to, yeah, I'll make a motion, to approve a variance of section 155.026, 155.049, and 155.057, chapter 155, title 15, land uses and zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinances, to replace the existing 1720 square foot one level cabin that's 45 feet from the ordinary high water mark, the lake, 10 and 13 feet from the property line. They'll be removing an existing 440 square foot detached garage that's 2 feet from the property line and 48 feet from the travel road center line. We're approving a 1,200 square foot two-story dwelling in a 610 square foot attached garage that will be 55 feet from the ordinary high water mark, 11 feet from the north and 14 feet from the south side property line, and 65 feet from the travel road center line. The property will be served by a new type 4 septic system that will be 5 feet from the travel road surface. There's a allowance of 175 square feet for future sidewalk patios and any other impervious surfaces. So even though we don't know where those are going to be, I'd like to see a fitness survey, annual survey, a year after all work is done, in order to mitigate the variance for the setback to the high water mark. There should be a permanent shoreline buffer that's at least 15 feet deep, using a plan, allowing for a recreational area that's 25 feet wide for docks, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's it. Oh, as shown in the survey, exhibit A.
I'll
right.
second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Barry?
I've got just a little bit of discussion. Let's make that as per the building plan submitted, marked exhibit A, and site plan exhibit B.
So
The site plan has all the calculations on it.
right.
Also.
That's the Bernie Miller plan, right?
Yes. Also, that I would suggest an added condition that there be fence, boulders, or some other barrier between the road and the septic system.
Oh, good, because it's 5 feet.
Crash barrier, yeah.
Some type of crash barrier between so the septic system doesn't get. Bernie, I didn't look at the profile of the design, is that a raised bed?
Yeah, it'll be raised up a little
So
bit.
there'll be some landscaping around it, mostly, retaining wall or something, but
Yeah.
it's still good to have that additional barrier when it's that close.
Yeah,
That way somebody doesn't
Yeah.
run into it, patio block all falls off, and then the thing, all the material then falls off of it, so.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna be in a retaining wall, but I think it can be tapered, but it will be more like a jump.
Yeah.
If somebody goes crazy.
Okay, so those are
It'll
the,
keep snowmobiles off it
so
anyways.
that's the amended,
Fence.
you both.
Are you good with that, Charlotte?
Yes.
Paul?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
Dan Mal? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernie, you might as well just stay there.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here. Well,
Thank you much.
I think we got it figured out there.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Next here is Heather L. Johnson. And you want to give your names for the record, please?
My name's Michael Johnson.
Okay.
Bernie Miller.
All right, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is 22,212 square foot lot on East Lake Sylvia. The variance requested are for a number of main level additions, which include 28 and 151 square foot living space additions, a new 186 square foot screen porch. Those are all roadside, a 52 and a half and 70 square foot covered porches roadside, and then a new 702 square foot half story above the existing dwelling. That is 4.3 feet and 12.1 feet from the property lines, 44.8 feet from the lake. That's to the main structure. There is a ground level patio or deck out the front of it right now that will be adjusted, and that setback for that particular portion will change. I did not include it here because generally speaking, as long as it's detached from the house, the setbacks is considered ground level there, the setbacks aren't looked at the same. I did put it in there. It wasn't, no, the existing deck is 26.3 and that would be moved to 36.9. They're also proposing a new 24 by 26 detached garage. That would be replacing an existing garage. The new garage would be 59.4 from the center line of the traveled road and have an 812 roof pitch. Again, the lot's under an acre in size, so the ordinance limitation is 612. The storage space in that pitch is designed at 6 feet, so that does meet our requirement. It's just more the pitch than it is the actual headroom in that space. Impervious surface coverage currently is 29.7. The applicants are proposing 27% through the reconfiguration of the deck and the removal of stepping stones. You have aerial photo. This is an area of the county that's really difficult with the meets and bounds stuff, is to get the aerials and the property lines to overlay. And so, I mean, Beacon is an exceptionally good tool. It's invaluable. I mean, you cannot put a value on how important this is for us. But there are areas like this where the property lines are shifted because the surveyors, you know, going off recent work, they just can't, you can't put flat things on a round map or, you know, round things on a flat map and expect everything to look the way it's supposed to. So this is not a survey. So the lines aren't this way, so you just shift it all west about 30 feet. And then we're good. That's where the line should be. So that's why we do require the actual physical surveys when we do these applications. We don't rely on Beacon, except in some instances. It all depends upon what the request is. And so we do have the survey for the property, and then the site plan showing all the changes, both in where structure additions are occurring, and also the changes to the impervious. For instance, you know, roadside of the garage, it shows an area where the new driveway is going to be. So they're going to have to add some impervious for the driveway, but then they're taking out the deck in other areas. That's where they get the reduction that they do have. Then we do have the elevation drawings for the structure itself. So you can see the lakeside portion, that's the lower right hand, that's going to be, the half story will be basically right behind those windows in that what looks like within the roof pitch. So the half story, all the living space is built within the pitch of the roof, so the roof pitch is going to change a bit. There will be knee walls inside, but not necessarily visible from the exterior of the home itself. And the floor plans. The most noted is the one at the bottom. There's also going to be a change in the basement. Currently, there is a basement here. There was a variance for it. I think it's 73. And the basement's actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's below water level.
Yeah.
And so they have issues with moisture and mold and other things and that. So the plan is to fill in the vast majority of that space. They are going to maintain a shelter area down there. There is one change in the exterior. Right now, they have the Bilco doors to access the basement area from the outside. Those Bilco doors, which are built, you know, just above grade, they're angled. There is going to be a little bit of change to that. Actually, I did talk to one of the neighbors about that. He was just curious on if that's going to change much, and so I sent him the drawings and explained the changes, and I haven't heard back from him, but he did ask about that. And so there will be it'll be 6 feet tall now instead of. I'll show the photos. It's you know, more like the old farmhouse, you know, crawl space access. I guess that's what I think of is the old farmhouses where they had an exterior door on the end. It'll be more of a straight up walk-in style door. Yeah, that's the change. The upper image is the upper level, the half story, with the building cross section on the bottom. The garage itself, this is the elevation and floor plan for the garage, as well as the cross section. So as you can see in that upper left, that's where the 6 foot headroom is being denoted. That'll be accessed from interior drop down.
Correct.
Okay. And then the exterior, you can see where the A12 pitch on the garage. And so I do have photos of the existing house. It's a extremely flat roof, 212 maybe. You know, 212 pitch maybe.
Maybe.
I think it's 112, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's 1.5 to the plane, somewhere between 1 and 2. And in that bottom right, you can see where I was, where the mentioning the Bilco doors. So right now, that's maybe, you know, at the house side, it's 3 feet. Well, that'll be more like an entry. So it will increase in height, but it'll allow for a direct walk-in door on that side. And then, again, it's when we go from these 1-story to more, I did include a photo from the lakeside that the assessor took showing, you know, it's 1.5 stories on to the right or to the east. It's harder to see to the west, but there is, you know, other structures along this bit of shore. In fact, we just had a variance here a couple of years ago, real close to the lake, where it's allowed replacement with a bit of expansion in an upper. And so same type of thing here. This is not a full replacement. This is just additions onto what is there. And the photos of the existing detached. We did receive approval from the township. I do have Heather on, she is out in the hall, but she is also on the WebEx. So that's what we have for the public attending the meeting is actually one of the options. I did do, and this wasn't included in the preliminary report, I did do a analysis of the percentage of new construction versus existing construction, which we do look at in some of these, and it's 39%. A lot of that is just due to the fact that it's not all living space. It sounds like a lot with the 180, it's a lot of square footage, but it's porches, decks, screen porch, covered porch, and so the actual valuation comes out to be about 39%.
Okay.
Township has approved it.
Yep. Anything you would like to add?
I'm gonna let him explain some of the reasoning and stuff about why when they bought it. And,
Yeah.
you know, understanding
Yeah.
that, and I can explain some details.
Right, so everything that we currently have on our lot was existing when we purchased it. The main concern that we have is yearly water issues in our basement and our garage. And so at this point, what we're trying to do is utilize some of that living space that we have in our basement that we can't really utilize now because of issues with consistent water, and reconvert that to above water level living. And then the garage, we have basic hill on the back side of our lot, and the water runs right down that hill into our garage. So repositioning the garage and changing it will allow, hopefully, to keep it dry for storage purposes.
Yeah, and some of your porch, I think Heather maybe mentioned that, the porch that is there now.
Yes, the current porch that's there now is covered.
Yes, and it's basically rotting, you know, it basically needs to be replaced.
Yeah, there's 2 support posts that you can basically take a screwdriver and wave underneath it, and so it's sagging, the roof is sagging there, and there's some concern that that will give at some point in time.
Yeah, so the house needs some repair, and the roof is part of the major problem, and so, furthermore, the garage, if you notice, it had, you know, and it's kind of funny, because I've seen one house where they actually had water coming and running straight down. It was just a poor idea, and run into the garage, so they had to put a garage door in the back of the garage so the water could run right through it. And that's almost the situation here that they have. I mean, there's doors on that backside, but you know, they were hoping initially to keep that garage in that similar spot, and previously they actually had steps going up to the upper level and had more room up there, but we've taken that away. And their main concern with their garage is they need to have some place to put some things. And so, you know, in order to accomplish that, this was kind of the compromise, but the main thing is to get the water out of it, you know, so it doesn't flood. And basically, the only way to do that is to move it back a little bit and raise it up a little bit, because you know, we need to have the water go around the garage. And in order to make it go around the garage, you have to pull it away from the property line so you don't grade the neighbor's property line. You know, we looked at all different things as far as impervious, you know, with that driveway. This road out there now is so narrow that you can't swing in to make that, it's really hard to swing in and make this curve. And, you know, I said, well, maybe we can take out one of them lanes in that. And they said there would be no way to get in and out of this place without that. So the impervious that's back here, you know, I know they're still over 2%, made a almost 3% increase, but the impervious that's back here is almost necessary for erosion and drainage. And, you know, then you'll see this little finger sticking out of concrete that goes over through a drain. And this whole area between the house and garage, if you get a 1-inch rain, will have about 2 inches of water on it. If not more. Maybe certain areas up by that drain 6 inches, and that's imperative for not just their property for drainage. There's actually a pump in there, and that collects the water from this whole area and pumps it towards the lake. So, I mean, it's something that I don't know if there's any record of or whatever, but that was something that solved the problem a long time ago and is very helpful, and it's really necessary to continue to make it work. So we can't really take out that whole little finger of concrete, you know, 150 square feet we could reduce, but I think it's more beneficial to have that than to take it out. It's kind of confusing. I think there maybe one other thing to mention is that the upper level, Barry had 700, he's crunching numbers, Barry, you had 700 and some square feet for that half story.
707.
Yep.
But It's actually two something, right? Because portion of it is
Yeah,
actually
but-
loft, 200 or
Yeah,
something.
so 300 square feet, assuming a 6'6" ceiling is the livable square footage. So the
Yeah,
other,
once the height of the seat, from ceiling to floor exceeds like 4 or 5 feet, then the entire
Okay. All right. And it really doesn't matter if you look at
area.
the,
I'd have to reference building code on that.
okay.
this sits I mean, it's so low, and then there's a huge hill behind it, and there's really nothing, like a lot of times there's a second tier on Lake Sylvia where there's an issue where you're blocking the neighbor's view or whatever. There's nothing, there's literally.
Forest and
Nothing
hill.
behind, and you can see the trees as it goes behind it, so.
And the lot kind of dips from the front to the back and from the back to the middle of the lot, so.
Yeah, if you were to try to rebuild on this lot, it's just built on an ice ridge. This is elevated 2 to 3 feet from the middle of the lot between the house and garage. So it would be really hard. We kind of talked about that if they considered it new construction or whatever, and discussing with Barry, and it's like, it'd almost be impossible to, you would have to replace it where it is. Really nothing you can do.
I think when I did calculate the whole area. Probably would be closer. 500 and then add in the stairs. Actually, 410 is the loft area. And then
Okay. Do you have anything else?
Is everybody clear on the understanding in the plan, like what where the proposed deck is and what part actually has a roof line over it of the existing porch and all that? Because it is kind of confusing, but maybe it doesn't.
It's very confusing. I think we'll get to it.
It's hard for me to grasp, I'll say that.
Yeah.
It took a bit.
Okay, Paul, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, a couple quick question on that steep pitched area. Is that the window on the lower right that I'm looking at, the roof line? Is that what we're talking about, the steep pitch?
that going to be, that area is
What's this pitch on that? And is that an open, I didn't quite see, is that?
About 14, 12,
Okay.
roughly. You're talking about the training
Yeah.
windows in there? Yeah.
and in the house, there isn't a limitation on pitch.
Oh, there isn't, it was the garage
That's
then?
why it's just
Okay,
the garage has a limit.
okay, that,
My question is, I guess I didn't notice in the plan, is that where the loft is, or is that where the open area is?
So there's open area towards the lakeside, and then
Okay.
the loft is in the back half
Okay.
of that
It's usually
channel.
what you see, but
Yeah.
that's not what I asked.
As far as the garage goes, moving it, I don't have a problem with. The pitch, we have a 6 foot and the access is inside the garage, not outside. Our concern there is always that it could be converted into some sort of summer thing, but I don't think it will, if it's inside like that. So I don't have a problem with that. And in principle, I don't have a problem with the proposed, covered doorway or porch. It's small, it's modest, it's reasonable, it's the backside, in principle. One concern is to make sure that that is a 3-season porch, that it can never be turned into a 4-season porch. But where some of my big concerns are is you're 40 feet, some 40 feet from the lake, that's close. So right away, red flags go up. We do have this big front, which, that's 1.5, that's so close to the lake, with that steep pitch. I'm a little concerned on the presence that would have from the lake. It was mentioned that we do have a 1.5 story next to you, but what I'd like to see is, are there others, or are you the only two? I don't want to change, I don't want to start a precedent where all of a sudden, now we got 2 homes. The next guy comes along, well, I got one here. And I want to make sure that we're not starting anything new. So I'd want to make sure, get more information on that.
I do have a picture, a panoramic of that.
Do you?
beach.
That'd be great.
If you want.
Here, what I can do too is, so this one is the neighbor that's directly to,
And they have a similar pitch that I'm looking at, okay. That's helpful.
the nice thing about having this right down the line, so this is that neighbor. Assessor is really good at giving us some updated photos. I actually don't go to near places I used to. I I go to the site and take pictures.
Okay.
Oh, no, I got them, and they're usually 1 or 2 years old. So that's second one down to the
Okay.
east. And there again, I mean, you know, or you could tell me where to start and stop. So this is the third one down to the east. It's kind of more of a modified, that's, to me, when you
Still
get
two-story.
dormers like that, that's 2-story.
Yep.
You know, it's got that 2-story look.
Can you go back to
That
the,
one's a little farther back.
yeah, okay, can you go to the aerial view? I just wanted to get a sense of the distance that these others have compared to theirs. So,
So these are this is the applicants right here.
yeah,
And so the other ones were here, here, and here. And so these here are actually still fairly close. They're both about a relatively similar distance to what the applicant is. I mean, you get the OSW, it's gonna be a few feet here and there, but relatively similar distances. Well, let's go to the west. And so this is, so that's kind of just a 1-story, more of a cabin. And I do believe this family owns the next 2.
You do, yeah.
And both of theirs are currently 1-story cabins, and then it does look like the third one to the west is a
bigger.
more substantial structure. Full 2-story.
We got a couple.
So it's a mix
Yeah,
here.
it's a mix, okay.
Certainly is a mix.
Well, that's a concern of mine. A lot of it's been alleviated, but I'm teetering on adding more height to other buildings, but it's not a deal breaker. But the real concern is the impervious structure. And you did touch on how that driveway in the backside consumes a lot of it and is needed. But I'm looking at this sidewalk that's leading to your front door, and you have stepping stones.
Yeah, the sidewalk's going.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to have something to walk on, right? And that's my concern. We're already over the impervious coverage, not by a little, but a lot, you know? And it's winter time. You have to have a safe surface to walk on and to shovel. And it's not unreasonable to expect somebody, maybe not you, but the next owner to come along and put a nice sidewalk in, and now we're over, and now we're way over. So I would want to see a sidewalk included in any future plans and have those numbers included, because I'm not convinced that that would ever stay the same. I mean, that would be the first thing I would do if I were to, buy that home, is put a sidewalk in. I mean, having a safe, stable surface is, for your main entrance it's just common sense. So, the issues that I have basically are the impervious surfaces. It just has to come down, and it has to include a sidewalk leading to the house. How you're gonna do that, I don't know. And I listened to my other members on the height issue, being so close to the lake. I'm teetering on that. But as far as the porch and the entrance, I'm fine with that, and the garage. So with that, I'll pass it on.
Okay. Charlotte?
Yeah, I start off with the, house being 44.8 feet from the ordinary high water mark, and saying that virtually any expansion to necessitate the amount of expansion that's being requested here is too much on a structure that's already grossly non-conforming. I don't consider that reasonable. I want to see the house division downsized or garage downsized, or something to get down to 25% impervious. I want to see the setbacks removed, improved, or just build a new conforming structure. I'd like to see the garage roof brought down to a 612 pitch to be consistent with every other garage that we approved. There's no reason for it not to be 612. I just find this to be excessive. My other question was, the original structure was built between 1951 and 1973. There were various elements that were built at different times. It's slab on grade. Will that 50 or 60-year-old foundation hold the second story? Will it support it?
It's not a
It's
slab.
not.
Sorry, Char, didn't mean to interrupt. It's not a slab on grade, it actually has a basement. That was the variance from 73.
Oh, okay, well, I was looking at the assessors, either the assessors or, I was looking at something that says slab on grade. But will the 50-year-old foundation support the new second stories?
Well, that's, all I can say is, you know, we discussed that, and that's why they brought up Darwin Hoffman in a builder, and he'd be sitting here if it was different times to discuss and looked at that. But that we don't feel is an issue at this point. You know, and it's not a full, it's not a full second story. Actually, you take a flat roof like this, you know, if it can hold the snow in Minnesota and the thing doesn't sink and put a roof on it, it may be better. I don't know, so.
Okay. Anything else, Charlotte?
Well, in any case, I just think that it's too much expansion on a grossly non-conforming structure, and I would not be in favor of it.
Okay. Dan?
Okay, I too, like Paul and Charlotte, I'd like to see that 25% impervious, not to exceed that. The 812 could be remedied with the 612. I just raised the heel height a little bit and you got your same amount of room in the upside there. So those would be my two things, and then of course the footings too, just that they accept that extra roof. But the height to me is not a matter. I think it's a really nice looking design, so close to the lake is, but cut the impervious and I would probably be more apt to go along with it, and a 612, and you could even shrink that garage a little bit to try to get that impervious down. That'd be my thoughts.
And I guess I would somewhat concur with everybody what they're saying. But like our previous one where they basically came in and started over, cleaned out the lot, listening to what you're doing, you're gonna fill in a basement, you're adding all these other additions on, and you look at what you have now and to what you're ending up with, pretty much doing that, but leaving a few walls. And you have a lot of deck. I understand it's on a, you know, where you're on an ice ridge and all that stuff. And by the time you do, and we're not supposed to talk money here or anything, but by the time you do all these additions and all these corrections and all this filling and stuff, probably be better off to start over. But that's not for the consideration up here. I mean, I've done remodeling here in the last few years and it's nuts. Wish I would have burned the house down and started over.
Well, you know,
You know, so I mean, that's where, and we gotta get the impervious down. I mean, we just do. We've got a lot of deck, you're close to the lake. I mean, we consistently with the board up here, it's really challenging to be what you're asking for. I'm just to be consistent with what we've done with other people, other properties. So, and I guess if you wanna respond.
Yeah, let me say a couple things quick that, you know, I mean, we looked at that, like, to
Would you mind speaking louder, because I cannot hear you.
Okay,
real
sorry.
well. That's all right.
No problem. Yeah, we kind of look like how you do this if you were to rebuild, you know, and that would be, and like, could you comply and how that would work, and, you know, just the way the dynamics work of the drainage and the storage of this water back here, you can't, if you change all that, all the neighbors are gonna get that much more water and be flooded, it's gonna be a huge mess. So it's a really hard part from that, and I think that, you know, the good majority of this house is 50 feet, and we talked about some other things like pervious pavers and things like that, and actually, they're not so sure that the pervious pavers with the frost in that, in a situation here, is gonna actually stay there. So we looked at things like that, and I think there's more things a person can look into, and I think he's probably willing to take his impervious down to 25%. You know, I mean, we've cut, I mean, when you don't, it's not demonstrated the compromises that have been made already. I mean, because the initial deck was very similar to what was there, you know. I said, we gotta work on our impervious, we gotta get this, we gotta make it better, we can't make it worse, we have to continue to get further down and closer. So, so I think he's, you know, I told them to think about that. What are we gonna do if they want 25% impervious? And I think that it's possible, to do.
Yeah, and my wife and I have been discussing that as well, and we can, I mean, we can continue to make the deck smaller on the front. We wouldn't want to get rid of all of it. I mean, we do like to have a place to sit out with our family and have a meal on our deck. So we've talked about eliminating another 200 square feet from that deck, so we would be less than half the size of the deck that's currently there. We've talked about changing some of the concrete work in the back, that concrete finger, trying to figure out a way to make that more of a natural flow than just a concrete slab. We're just a little worried about water. I mean, we have water issues in the basement, water issues, so that's what we're concerned about. And making the adjustments in the house, moving it back, we're worried about putting more water off to our neighbors. And so that's why we've tried to keep what we can to allow for the water control as best we can. But there's some square footage that we could potentially work with to get down to that. I think it ends up being like 25.3 or something, removing that finger and removing 200 square feet of the deck to still allow control of the water and get down close, I mean, really close to that
In
number.
this case, I mean, I do believe there's 4 doors lakeside. So, you move a door or two, you concentrate your flow out, and you reduce the deck. The deck is 640 square feet. It's bigger than some cabins that we have.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's what's proposed. I mean, yes, it is getting smaller. I mean, the existing deck's over 900,
Right.
but that eats up. I mean, right now, we're looking at with what's proposed here on this plan, it's 449 square feet. That's what they gotta come up with to meet the 25. So, deck is a big share of that.
Right.
So it all, part of it is, the house design lends itself to the things that are outside the house. We've seen that, many times. So that's, I mean, just so the board is aware, if you didn't see that, I mean, on the building plans, it says 640 square feet of deck. And if you look at the house, there's 4 sets of sliding doors on that side of the house. And that's why, I mean, it's decked to cover the span of all those doors.
Right.
But you can concentrate that and make that improvement.
That would help to back away from the lake shore too a little bit.
Unless somebody else has something to add, I would suggest we continue this and you go back and try to show us some of those things where we can get within compliance of that. I guess, is anybody on the board got any other strong challenges?
One question, I am hearing you on this whole water issue. I would like if you could take some pictures, I don't know if we want to site it, because I think I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. I'm getting it in general, but if you could be a little more specific in explaining how that water flows visually.
I have on my phone.
I can show it a little bit real quick.
Well,
too.
if we're gonna continue, do we wanna do a site visit? I mean, that is an option. We can do that. We can drive out there planning and zoning has been doing site visits. You just either meet here and,
That
we all
does
drive
help.
out there.
Yeah, because you guys have spent a lot of time worried about this water thing, and it is preventing you from doing certain things, or has, and so I'd like to learn a little bit more about it.
It's hard to demonstrate that unless you get the big picture and you see, because it comes off this hill.
Well, if we're there, we
And
could,
then it's,
okay.
yeah, then it's just, I think it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Charlotte, do you have any input
On what?
on site visit?
A site visit would be a bad idea.
Okay,
I would like to say though, I think the majority of us are 25% though of impervious, so if you want to
Correct.
work on that.
You want something for that submitted prior to the next meeting.
correct.
With the sidewalk going to the front door, not paving stones.
So we could do if they decide to not put in a sidewalk and they still don't want to have one, but calculate, even if it's pervious pavers at 50% or something, at least something calculated for it in case someone wants to do it, because they don't want to do it. They want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
They want to mow right across there.
We
I
don't
just want to
use
make
the
sure that
pavers.
in the future, because someone will put a sidewalk, that we have the room to do it, so.
Yep.
If you could do that, that's great, whether you put one in, not, but we have room, I'm good with it.
Well, I think, we'll figure it out.
So when would you want to do, site?
Well,
Well,
we'll set that up. I think we have to have a motion to
Okay.
continue and have a site visit.
I'll make a motion to continue this to our September
September
4th meeting.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded, and to have a site visit?
And a site visit, yeah, to
Second.
be determined.
Motion made and seconded to continue till the September 4th meeting and have a site visit before then. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor, have a roll call vote.
Dan Vic, aye.
All aye.
Charlotte?
I,
Dan Mall, aye. We will continue,
We take the, yeah, you wanna.
and we'll Next on the agenda is Austin and Robin Spielman. Do you want to give your names for the record, please?
I'm Darcy Zarnes. I'm the daughter of the Spielmans.
Bernie Miller?
Okay. Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we have is a combination of two different lots, one platted lot, one unplatted lot. It's a meets and bounds lot. By state statute, the one lot is extremely small, must stay combined with the other lot, so we view this as one entire site, not two separate lots. It totals 43,040 square feet. There is a significant amount of slope on the site, but it doesn't meet the bluff standards and definitions. It doesn't have the 25-foot height requirement. It would be considered a steep slope, but not a bluff. The request is to replace the existing trailer, which actually I'm going to run through. That's the existing mobile home with a new 30-foot 4-inch by 60-foot manufactured home. It'll have a 10-foot by 30-foot 4-inch covered porch on the one end and a 400 square foot deck on the other end. And Bernie, I must not have gotten your site plan in here, but I do have a site plan for it, and I'll put that up on the screen here.
All right.
I don't know how I missed that. Well, sometimes I run through this stuff. And so the only variance needed here is for the road, which has the house at 62.5 feet, and the site plan does show some type of deck or entry off of that roadside that would be a bit closer at 59.8 feet. We did receive approval from the township, and neighbor, Jim Schwabel, has no issues with it.
Okay. You want to have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll let her talk about her parents and their desires for this.
Well, they've been wanting to do this for a long time and finally saved up the money, and we're hoping to replace that trailer. I think it might be the last trailer on the lake, and build a modest size home so that they can enjoy it with their grandkids and so forth.
Yeah, we talked initially, said, well, maybe a person should be considering, building a house, stick building a house, so that it could fit, meet all the setbacks. And her mom is very much, that I think is more expensive, and I think it takes a lot longer. I don't know, I met your parents the other night, but, how old are they? They're
in their 70s.
Yeah, so they're in their 70s. The house gets put in there and they can move in it. They like the idea of being able to go look at houses and, and see what they like. And they really like the way this particular house works. So we've done everything we can to try to best maximize how to get it to fit in there. Initially, it was going to be a slab on grade they wanted, and I said there's, too much elevation to fill. We'd have to do a walkout. Yeah, and I'm surprised that the township, township is a lot in favor of it. I think I'm surprised they didn't say anything about wanting to keep the trailer, because that's like a landmark out there. Everybody knows where yeah, they did, but they didn't put it in any motion that it's, and you've seen the condition of it, and, when you just look at the size and the layout of this property, it's long and skinny. We have a long, skinny house. Everything just, to me, just makes really good sense. It's just this particular house doesn't quite fit on there. And, the 62.8, yeah, so we're a couple feet away from the 65. Township doesn't have any issue with it. The 59-foot, 59.8, though, we added that because we weren't sure if we should add that in case we're working still a little bit on the elevations, and we would need to fill around that front. I mean, we'd like to have access so you don't have too many steps into the house, but in the case you ever had to have a ramp to get into the house. I wasn't sure if that was an allowed, encroachment, and if we needed to count in square footage or how that all works, and I think Barry can talk on that, but.
Go ahead, Barry.
Well, what generally we do allow is that, some type of a 4-foot walkway. It's similar to what the shoreland area has a exception for stairways, lifts, and landings. And so if you're gonna allow stairways, lifts, and landings as an access to the lake, we kind of apply that same theory to being attached to the house. I mean, 4 foot, it's not a deck. And so as long as it's something that meets the stairways, lifts, and landings definition in the shoreline area, we do allow those as a permitted encroachment, even if it's attached to the house. Generally speaking, if it just abuts the house, not physically attached, less than 30 inches above grade, it doesn't matter either. And so something is, we do have this in other areas where, you need to access a door that's off the ground, 6-8 feet, you allow those 4-foot walkways with a 4x8 landing, which that's what is defined in the shoreline area for stairways. You allow some permitted encroachments, but it needs to stay within that stairway and landing definition.
And so this, really, we wouldn't need a variance for 59.8 from the center of the road?
If it's no more than 32 square feet, would not need it.
And so, but technically, the 62.8 is the only thing we're looking at, so.
All right. Then I guess I can start out. Should be my round. Looking at this one, I mean, we're only looking at a variance from the road. And if that's correct,
Yes.
Barry, I mean, we're just looking at a variance from the road. And even if it's 59 feet or the 62.8, what you're asking for, the township is approving. I don't have a problem with it. You're meeting the lake setbacks. You're meeting all of the other setbacks with the sewer. I'm fine with what's proposed and asking for a variance on the road. So, Charlotte?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I have nothing further to say.
All right. Thank you, Charlotte. Dan?
The one thing to mention would be, is that on the lakeside portion, they did change their plan. Originally, they had a door on the lakeside portion. And so they have changed their plan with that, but if any point a door is added on that lakeside portion, it's a walkout wall. And so there will need to be something out in front of that, which that would, the house is right at the 75 now. And so again, same thing, if they want to do that, fine, but it's limited to, 4x8, landing with some type of, walkway to get to and from that door. That would be the only thing that would be allowed without a variance. So that should be noted in any type of motion, is that, any additional access lakeside would be limited to, up the stairway and walkway standards.
Correct. But the way the house is positioned.
Barry,
Yes.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
is there any reason not to move the house back a little bit closer to the road to allow for whatever deck in front, with the door?
I guess I can't really speak to that. This is what was applied for. Is it possible? I'm assuming it is. I don't.
I guess let's ask the applicant.
Yeah,
Was that a consideration?
Well, we really, there was a sliding glass door off of the dining room that we really wanted to have, but with the width of the house, it wasn't gonna fit. So when we talked to Barry and worked with Barry on it, we were trying to get as best we could, and so we removed the sliding glass door so that there wouldn't be any deck on the front, to make it as narrow as possible. And we have a sliding glass door or a door from the mudroom on the end of the house, so you can get out onto the deck, and then a porch on the other end. So mainly the access points are on the ends of the house, so we didn't have to do anything from the front at the lake. Even though we wanted a deck, we felt like we didn't want to push our luck.
Well, I would say this, that one idea is, I know if there wasn't any issues or there was a bunch of other variances or we need the lake variance or whatever, I would have pushed this house back because it actually helps with elevation to go back a little further. But we're trying to be as compliant as possible with all the setbacks. But, you know, even if it was the 59.8, you know, would give us some additional room to go back. That is very helpful. It's not gonna, there's some spots it's wider, we could maybe get, you know, a little bit, or not much of a deck, but.
Yeah, I know where Charlotte's coming from, and I would have the same thoughts. I would, myself, I would prefer you to push it back 10 or 15 feet. And if the township agrees, you know, along with the road variance, because that's all you're looking for now is road variance. And that way we can keep the house and a deck all compliant with the lake and that. I mean, we've given variances closer to township roads if the township agrees, and depending on what much traffic is there, I can't answer those questions.
Okay.
But I mean, am I correct in saying that, Charlotte?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, because,
What I wouldn't want to have happen though, in a case like this, is that the township, you know, doing that would require the township to relook at it.
right.
Yeah.
Generally
Yeah,
speaking,
for
the
sure.
board doesn't like to, you know,
I guess,
overburden the township either, but in a case like this, I mean, I think this board could, in theory, if you so desire, say, okay, we approve it where it sits. If they wish to move it back, set a not to get closer than, and then at the time of application, they submit approval from the township for the new setback.
yeah.
So you're approving a range of road setback.
Yeah.
You know,
That would be
anywhere
nice.
from 62.8 feet to 52 feet, or whatever you so desire, and then the township, since they're the road authority, make them go to the township before application, get approval from the township for that lessened setback, and that way we can take care of it.
That we can take care of it today, and we don't have to.
That would be
continue.
great. That would be
And
fantastic.
It's not generally something that we do, because we have all these other issues, but in this one, we don't have any of those
It's
other issues.
pretty
Simple.
yeah. All right, Dan?
I just want to go on noting that Chairman has some advantages, get the nice one there. So I agree with everything he said.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I'm okay with that, I'm okay with up to 50 feet from the road.
Paul?
I'm fine with it too, and being also flexible in adjusting the motion to.
And I guess if Barry helps with the motion, or we adjust the motion,
Oh, make a
I'd like to, you know, adjust it 15 feet. So I mean, you can put a 12-foot deck on.
Okay.
You know, and still be compliant, but it still gives them approval from the township.
50
Yeah,
foot.
50 foot.
Not 15,
No.
15 additional feet, but 50 foot.
Foot.
Basically a 50-foot variance, so that you have that amount up front to move the house back and still be in compliance with the lake and all the setbacks with the lake.
One comment, Barry, is there, would there still be a 15-foot setback from the road? From the property line? Because that's really getting close to, if you go back to 50, it's barely 15 feet from the front property line, so. Or you could say 50 feet from the center line of road, or 15 feet from the property line, whichever is,
Well, those are side, this isn't the side, this is a front.
I know, but,
But I understand the concept you know, that road right of way, because that's actually a flat right of way too. I know the comment we got from the neighbor indicated it's all private road and private easement, and actually it's not. This is publicly dedicated right of way that is behind this house. It's not right now we have 20 feet from the right of way to the property line. And so that's, you know, generally speaking, when we look at these, we try to keep that 20-foot right of way setback. So that does complicate it a bit. So it's, again, it's kind of what.
You could do it 55.
Yeah.
Do it at 55-foot setback. That still's gonna give you approximately an 8-foot deck, 8 to 10-foot deck, and that's, and you can still put a patio chair out there and look at the lake, and
That would be more
so
reasonable.
somebody would incorporate that into their motion
So
that
you're
way.
saying 55?
You mean me?
Sure. You're
Well, I'm gonna
volunteering.
make the motion this time. So
You think?
I'll make a motion to approve But did you want to take it over?
No,
Okay.
I'll let you do it and then I'll add
The
it.
variance section 155.026, 155.049, and 155.057, chapter 155, title 15, land and usage zoning of the Wright County Court of Owns, to replace a 10 by 46 trailer home that is 52 feet from the ordinary high water mark to within 30.4 and 60 manufactured home with a walkout basement, to be no closer to the road right away than 55 feet with approval from the township. And that would be all you need to know, right?
Do I, motion made, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion?
Just a quick note, at a minimum, the applicants can build as submitted without approval by the township. Any reduction in that road setback, no closer than 55 feet from center line, would require township approval prior to application.
Okay,
No closer than that 62.8 that they've already been approved.
Yeah.
So if you want to go any closer to the road, you need to go back to the township.
Yep.
Motion so moved.
I'll second that.
okay.
Dan, Vic, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
Dan Mal, aye. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
No, Barry is,
Next on the agenda is Cynthia Hewer.
Hoyer.
Hoyer, and you want to give your names for the record, please?
Roger Hoyer. Cynthia Hoyer.
All right, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, or board members. I guess you're acting chair today.
Sure.
The property is located in Victor Township. It's a part of a 102-acre ag parcel. The request is for an entitlement division out of that 102 acres. That would be on a 33-foot access strip. 4 access strips. The ordinance allows access strips if it preserves tillable land or accesses a wooded site. In this case, it's in the tillable, not prime, but it's still in part of the tillable field, and it's not a wooded site. So that's why the variance is needed for this. If there were woods there and it was an access strip, it wouldn't even be coming to the board. But in this case, there are no woods there, and so it does require that variance. I really don't have a whole lot more to add. We did receive approval from the township, so.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public on?
Well,
Okay. Charlotte, do you want to start? Oh, wait, just wait, hold on, Charlotte. Is there anything the applicant wants to add, or?
Just that autos were out and have surveyed the land. We don't have the actual survey results, but just a little clarification to Barry's that we're looking for a 2-acre house lot with 1.4 of a driveway. 1.04, excuse me. increasing the 33-foot access strip to 44 feet, which would align the driveway with the actual property line. The
It'll just
original,
make it wider. The cart path, the cartway that has always been there will stay there.
Yeah.
That's what we're using is the old cart path that has never been tillable acres to get back to this site. So the 1 acre is a tillable or non-tillable cart path.
and we're looking to build our home there for future retirement. So we are a 4th-generation dairy farmer, and we are involving our son and his family, 5th-generation dairy farmers, into our operation, and we need them to be on the farm. Dan knows. So we request your approval, please. We do not own any wooded acres that we could meet the variance
We'd be here
on our
for
farms.
any
Of our own land.
Any of our own lands. It's all tillable. There's no woods.
Okay. All right, Charlotte, would you like to start?
Oh, you know what? We lost her, so somebody else will have to start.
Okay, Dan?
So, from my understanding, that's a nice spot to build, is you're a little higher elevation, and
Yes.
I really don't have a problem with it, so I'm thinking that would be fine. It's under the 2.5 tillable, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's what this is. The green crosshatch is what's considered prime tillable by soil type.
Sure.
Now, there again, there's some differences in that where these things are pretty broad, but that's the best we have to go with. And my assumption is that northern corner, that kind of northeasterly corner, a lot of that is not tillable or considered prime just because of either type and or slope.
but that is the reason for the long access, right, to get out of the prime too,
Yes.
so I'm okay with that then.
You know, you have an entitlement, you're entitled to put a piece of property, and build something on there. It is the least desirable, as been mentioned, as far as farmland, so that's good. I do have a little concern with the length of the driveway. It's not a deal breaker, but it is a concern. But with that said, you guys did widen the road a little bit, which I think is good. And in the end, I don't have any strong objections.
Thank you.
Okay. Charlotte, are you back with us?
I am.
Okay, you have any
Can you
thoughts?
summarize what's been said?
What's that? Oh, summarize what's been,
Summarize what's been said by anybody else?
yeah, Dan Vick, really doesn't have a real, he's okay with it. Paul is a little concerned with, the length of the driveway and back there, but he does understand what they're trying to accomplish, and you would be next.
Okay, I'm okay with it if it's reasonable. The entitlement areas on the hill is difficult to farm, and they're the ones deciding that they want to put it that like the snow, so it is what it is.
Okay, I guess that leaves me to me. And I have a challenge with it. And I understand what you're doing. I understand the 4th generation. I'm born and raised farm, northern Wright County. The part I have, Barry, what is the zoning in that area? Is it any large lot or ag res zoning, or is it strictly all agricultural in that area?
It's all agricultural except for an area on the lake itself. So this is within a fairly close proximity to Ann Lake, and so there has been some development around the lake itself, all using the, either it's older or using the lake shore specifically. I believe you were on the planning commission when that whole Ann Lake
Portion.
part of Ann Lake was developed. This is off the kind of the northwest corner of the lake, and so it's not, it's a ways from that portion. Probably the biggest kind of thing for development on this particular one would probably be the city moving out in that direction. Not necessarily what's in our land use plan. Let me pull her up and just check for certain here, but I can get that up I do believe I looked at that, and I don't think there's anything in the plan that has been developed or is undeveloped in the surrounding area. And so, yeah, about a half a mile to the north of this parcel, so it'd be almost, or actually it'd be 40 acres north of this parcel, quarter mile. About a half a mile north is where the city's, you know, can't remember what we call it now.
Transition area?
Transition area is, and so that's a half a mile to the north. Whatever's in the land use plan for large lot, you know, is, and anything that's been kind of rezoned is more down around the lake shore. There is kind of one odd parcel that was rezoned to R2 back quite a while ago, that's abuts the school. And in this case, the Howard Lake School is actually half a mile to the south. Cities, and the city's transition area is a half mile to the north. So there isn't anything that would infill as far as development from a rezoning, other than just use of it. So if the board wants, I can.
Because when the school was getting built, they wanted to go across from our farm on that 80, but then there's a huge pipeline across that whole 80, north and south to that center, or that gas outfit right across from the cemetery.
So as you can see to the north, the red, that's the transition area. You know, there's some, you know, older R1 developments and large lot developments along the lake shore, but nothing out in the farm area at all. And then this is planned growth, and most of that planned growth has already taken place.
Okay. I guess where I'm having some challenges and some thoughts is you build a house out in the middle of a field. I mean, with the access strip, it's not in the front corner or where you have your 300 feet of road frontage. We just had this with last month with farming. I'm assuming, knowing more of the story, that you're farming all the way around it yourself anyway.
Yes, we
But
are.
last month, we had a situation where somebody else lived there, and then you're farming around it. It's creating problems for the farmer with chemical drift and killing lawn and killing plants.
We
own everything.
You're gonna kill your own.
It's been in the family we're Century Farm there.
Yeah.
On both parcels.
Yep. For me, it comes into, and I understand what you're doing. For me, it comes into the situation of the planning and zoning, because I sit on that board also. And what are we doing in the county? And this is putting a house out in the middle of a field on an access strip. If it was up in the front corner splitting off, we wouldn't be here, but even, you know, if it was something to do up towards the front.
We have lived on County Road 6, Roger's entire life, and me.
Been there for a long time, tired of the traffic.
We would like to get away from the traffic and there is, you know, considerable traffic on to Lake Ann.
80th Street.
And we have grandchildren, we want to be off the road.
I think, you know, I live close by there and I drove by there and I thought long access too, but then it is to get it to where not good tillable land. So I'm thinking he's getting rid of that part of it. So it is the least desirable tillable up there. The access makes more sense, in my opinion.
Okay.
All right.
All right, well,
Where are we?
I guess.
I'll make a motion
Guess
to
we're at a
approve.
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a 2.5 acre, it'd be actually 3 now?
No, it'd be 2.
2
Or is
tillable,
it 3?
It's 2 acres of tillable and
And one.
1 acre of the access. It'd be 3.04.
Yeah.
with a 44-foot access
Correct.
strip on a 1 per 40 division according to section 155.026, 155.048, G, 4, and C, chapter 155, title 15, land and usage of zoning in Wright County Code of Ordinance. I got through.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Okay.
Whatever.
Just one bit of discussion, it's subject to deed restriction and survey, so when you get the survey, get it to our office, our staff will do the deed restriction, you just have to sign it and we'll record it.
Thank you.
We already have the septic information on these smaller ones like this, I require that up front because you don't want to approve the lot, have the septic not be able to fit or something and then have to come back to redo it. So we get that up front, we already have that, so all we're waiting for is a survey and our staff to do the documents.
Okay. Motion made and seconded.
Dan Dick, aye.
Paul, aye?
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dan Mall? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Is Ryan Nelson. Do you want to give your name, please, for the record?
Ryan Nelson.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, the property we're dealing with here is a 112 acre farm that originally had a 9.02 acre home site divided off of it. The request is an after the fact variance to add 8 acres to that 9.02 acre site, making it a 17 acre entitlement division. I do have plans showing what has been done. The deeds have been recorded. It just isn't showing up on any of our mapping software yet, so that's why it's the after the fact portion. But yeah, I really don't have a whole lot more to add. It is in Silver Creek Township. We did receive approval from the township, motion made and carried 8-0 to approve the variance request. So, that's all I got.
All right. Is there anything you want to add to that or what you did?
Sure. Well, first off, I'd like to apologize for the after the fact. I had no idea that adding 8 acres was going to need a variance. We've done some other stuff in the past, and that stuff I did know when I talked to Barry, but this one, because we're like Silver Creek's a 1 per 40, so I just thought if I added 8 more acres, it wasn't going to be an issue. So I wasn't trying to get away with anything, to state the obvious on that one. The original is the whole family farm, and we've had it since 1911. The house I own, my wife and I own, my dad built in 81. The 9 acres was the 9 acres my grandfather gave my dad for a wedding gift. So that's why it was 9 acres at the time. I'm not sure exactly why that number. But that being said, for all the years since, it qualified for Egg Homestead. And now, the last few years, Egg Homestead has changed the rules. And so all I did was, it's a long-term play. Add 8 acres, that gets me to 10 acres in production. Obviously, you can see like the buildings, the shop, and my 2 pole barns. Out of my 9 acres that I own there, the majority of it's all farm anyways, farm used. So I just fall short of my 10 acres in productivity. So my wife and I talked about it, and we just paid the money to have the farm mortgage release the 8 acres, and then had what's his face in town, I'm sorry, drawing blank, drop the legal description, that kind of stuff, and just carry through. So that's it. It's just a long play. It was just a long play to add the 8 acres to the 9 acres to make it 17 acres. So then we fall into a homestead instead of residential.
Okay.
That's all there is to it.
Okay. Where are we starting here? You, Paul? Okay, go ahead.
This is a first for me, but one of the things that I was told when I first was asked to do this job a long time ago was, just use common sense. And I believe you when you say, you didn't know. I mean, sometimes it can get complicated, and you could be argued that, you should have done your due diligence, whatever, but we're here, and it's now.
Sure.
What do we do, never in a million years would we ever approve this, because it is prime egg land. So, but that's beside the fact. I'm for approving the variance just simply because I think it's the common sense thing to do at this point.
Appreciate that.
Be able to move forward. The fact that the township has approved it just kind of helps me validate that, so, but that's my 2 cents.
Charlotte?
I guess I see it a little bit differently. I don't see any, I understand what they're trying to do with the ag homestead designation, but there's no hardship or practical difficulty involved in this to really allow us to do a variance. The only purpose for doing this is economic, and by statute, we're specifically prohibited from granting a variance that's only for economic reasons. So based on that, I have to say no.
Okay. Dan Vic?
I'm tend to be a little more with Charlotte. What's considered ag at 10?
Yeah, the conversation started with the tax end of the deal in the county, you know, when I lost my egg homestead. And I need 10 acres in production to qualify for egg residential. And mine just happens to be 9, obviously. And so he told me, he's like, well, I'll give you credit for about 6, right, including my buildings.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me fall short. Only reason why I came up with 8 was like, oh, okay, that was above and beyond. My family, I'm the 4th generation, and we've owned it since 1911. So it's 109 years. So it's not like the 110 acre field that I'm taking 8 acres from is gonna make any difference. I mean, this house is built by my father. I've owned it for approximately 10 years, 40 years standing. I mean, it's not going anywhere. The only play is to actually, what happened is 10 years ago, my father and I bought the farm from my grandfather. And by doing that, as I'm sure you guys understand, farming has become big business. So we actually had to separate the property out of our personal names, because it originally was just, you know, Ryan and Gary Nelson. We had to turn it into Nelson Acres LLC, because the money's so big, then that money goes against your personal name. So the whole farm, all the land is Nelson Acres LLC, besides the 9 acres that my wife and I own. But it's actually all the same, if that makes any sense. Only reason why it's not personal, or the only reason why I just didn't absorb the whole 9 acres into the 110 acres, which would be the same thing, is because I needed to keep Nelson Acres LLC. That's the reason why it's 8 acres, because that was just more than I needed. And that's the only reason why we don't go the whole thing. It's because of the sheer money now and the economics of it.
I know 10 acres is max, though, isn't it, on a Barry?
10 acres is max for an entitlement division.
Yeah, and
for the homestead or the portion that he's talking about, you have to have 10 acres in production. You know, whether it's pasture, whether it's feedlot, you know, if you got feedlot or whatever you could, but you've got to have 10 acres to be able to qualify for that tax.
So
The
he's
home
talking.
or any non-pastured wooded acres wouldn't be included in that 10.
Yeah.
Or the tax assessment, which that's all controlled by the state legislation.
For just a second here, I'm trying to still get, because at first I thought, well, 10 acres, there's no reason to vary from that 10 acres, keep it 10. I'd like to get your opinion a little bit so I can kind of weigh it, because I'm just right there on it, so.
I guess where my thoughts is somewhat with Charlotte, or is with Charlotte, with there's no hardship here. I understand what you're trying to do. I do that. But on the same token, if we start doing this and allowing for these large lots within the county, just because you split off, you got 5 or 6 acres, now we're gonna end up with all these 15, 20 acre lots all over the county with little pieces so they can qualify for tax discount. And I don't think we're here to be rezoning or giving variances so people can get tax discounts. And when we start doing that, this one here is farmed. I understand, I mean, I see this is gonna be farmed, it's farmed straight through, it's all one portion. But when we start doing that with other people, there's going to become little pop-up things all over, there's going to be cars parked in the back. We start to create a challenge in our county for what we've been trying not to do, to avoid. I understand the difficulty, or it's not a difficulty, the financial, because we can't consider that. We can't talk about that here. So to give, and I agree with what Paul's opening statement was, if you came in here ahead of the fact, there's no way any of us would, I don't think I can speak for this board that we would agree with giving a variance to enlarge coming out of prime land or tillable land. I just don't think that would have happened, and I think that's kind of how we have to view it as a board right now. If it wasn't after the fact, how would we look at it? You know, if they were coming forward to us, would we approve it or wouldn't we approve it?
That's how I was kind of looking at it too.
And I think it's very difficult to approve it, and that's going to set a precedence on us going forward for variances where other people are gonna wanna do that. You know, I got split off with 10 acres, a neighbor will sell me 5 acres, and now I have 10 acres of production so that I can, you know, work with the county tax assessor. So I'm not sure, knowing what we've all talked about. Greg, are you there? What would you suggest? Do we need to have formal findings?
Mr. Chair, if they're not willing to voluntarily dismiss, then yes, a motion to direct findings consistent with the denial would be in order.
Okay. So I guess that kind of leaves it up to you, what you would like to do, if you would like us to dismiss your request for a variance for this, or and then it just goes away with no precedence, or we can have formal drawings drawn up.
Okay, I don't know. So, I mean, I just farm and drive trucks, so this is all above my head.
Yeah.
No, this is a 1 per 40, Silver Creek's a 1 per 40.
That's the entire county. It's not Silver Creek, it's the agricultural district in Wright County is a 1 per 40 designation. That limits the division of sites, building sites, to a maximum of 10 acres. And so that's county-wide for the agricultural district. So it's not just a Silver Creek thing, it's a county-wide thing.
So does that mean then that I can change it to 40 acres and then it's?
You can do the quarter here, incorporate your house parcel into the full quarter. That's what I was gonna bring up.
I'm not even that far, I'm not that far from 40. I mean, so if I just change it to 40, then it qualifies?
Then you don't even need.
Well,
So then I'm taking
the ordinance allows-
but then I'm taking a bigger chunk of land though.
Right, but that is what is currently in the ordinance. You can do it as a full 40. If something were to happen and Nelson Acres, you know, got foreclosed on, or you got foreclosed on, you have the 30 some odd acres of tillable that can still be viable field or farm in and of itself from the rest of the farmland. That's kind of why those rules are set up that way, so that we don't get these little bisected slivers of agricultural land that then just go away. Because the next person isn't gonna farm it, now we're losing farmland, and the more we put into the smaller divisions, the less likely they are to stay part of the larger farm. Just because, and there again, I'm not saying your particular situation, I mean, yes, we've seen century farms that go, they have to sell because they can't make it. Farming's a tough business, we understand that. The ordinance does allow the sale of a complete quarter. So the option is keep it under 10 or do a full quarter.
Isabel's got a quarter?
Yes, it's got 3. It's 100, I shouldn't say 3 full, but it is less than 3, but it does have a full quarter. It's got 80 acres to the back that would still be a full quarter.
That's all leased to us. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all the
You're-
same.
So,
All I'm trying to do, like I said, was the 8 acres. I mean, if you want me to do the 40, I mean, all my neighbors know exactly what I'm doing and they all approved it. You know, so they understand. Okay, I mean, I can go a different direction, it's fine. Like I said, if I would've known, I would've never even done it. That's why I split off the 8 acres. You know, I just thought I could, cause it's a 1 per 40, so just add 8 more on. Then
So
I got the phone call
if you
from
want to
people.
just, if you don't want to go through the whole denial process, what you can do is you can withdraw it and then, you know, process that full quarter portion.
Yep.
What is it, the southwest of the southeast? And
but then you don't have to come here, that's all administratively,
Yeah,
you just do the 40 and
you
it,
just
then
have
it's,
to,
you just have to do that all
Will do.
administratively.
Auditor's combination form required.
Okay, yep. Which I think that's what the original one was
For us,
I think it has to
it
be.
would set
for
a
these.
precedence that I don't wanna go into.
And you rework the mortgages too, so that it worked out that way, so you have to redo that just to be on the full court.
Yeah, like I said, it's a long play, so whatever it takes.
Yeah, and that's what the play would be in order to make it happen. Here, you'd either have to keep it the way it is, or at most, you get another less than an acre, or do the full court.
Well, and, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, the reason why I'm asking for a variance, because there's obviously a variance as you're asking for an exception to the rule, and I would like to think that I qualified for the exception to the rule with the situation that my family's in, but I can understand where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, and for an exception to the rule, we have to determine that there was a hardship. And,
Or common sense. I
well,
mean,
no, we have to go with
Paul
the
just
hard.
said he thought it was common
yeah,
sense.
That's my opinion.
That's his,
Yeah.
but we've got to come up with our criteria, is we have to come up, there's got to be a hardship, and we can't consider money as a hardship.
Okay.
As, you know, and I know we all personally have, but here as a board, we can't.
So,
I understand.
So, do you want the denial or just to dismiss and then just have that?
What's the difference? I have no idea.
Well,
I'm gonna move
denial-
forward a different
denial
direction,
is
right?
The county attorney has to write findings and then it gets continued to the next
Oh,
meeting
no.
and then they draft it.
No,
Okay,
Okay.
so there'll be a form for Terry to sign. The one thing I would do is for the board, is with the motion to dismiss, is just saying, this needs to be taken care of by the end of the year, which that's what you're gonna wanna do anyways, because the taxes are all paid. Do it now so you don't have to pay early next year. So we just need to, basically, the deed that's already been submitted, we need that basically undone, and whatever, you know, if he wants to do the 40, he doesn't have to do it this year, but at least undo the deed that's already been done. So I would say do the whole thing before the end of the year, you're better off that way. And that way it rolls into the next assessment year, you'll get that A credit back for next year.
okay.
So that's what I would do. So there will be a form for Terry to sign, or Terry will have to use.
Do I have a motion to dismiss without prejudice?
I'll make a motion to dismiss with his approval. So, yep.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, roll call vote, please.
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
Dan Mall? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, do I gotta sign something? Is it
Yep,
set?
she'll have a
She'll
form.
have a form for you.
Don't think
It'll be fine. To see your attorney about changing the deeds.
I'm sorry, what's that?
You'll have to see your attorney about changing the deeds
Okay.
and then we can get you that combined order.
Okay. So, just one moment and we'll start her up.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, next up. You want to give your name for the record, please?
Hello, I'm Ed Warren. I'm
Okay.
the property owner at 10265 Lathrop Avenue Southwest. Interested in, I'm buying the land across the road from me.
Okay.
And then we have Susan Zander is the applicant. She is on the WebEx meeting. Hi, Susan.
Yeah, hi there.
All right,
All right.
Jerry, you want to start?
Sure, I can, Mr. Chairman. What we're dealing with is the proposed division of 28 acres out of an existing 108 acre farm parcel. This one is kind of an interesting one, so how do you process this? Do we process as a division or a lot line adjustment? You know, the neighbor wants to acquire this 28 acres. To kind of give the board the background, this is all low area, swamp, wooded. It would leave all the tillable with the remainder of the farm. this division would not include an entitlement. It's more combined with the neighbor's 7.5 acre parcel. Kind of one of the issues with this and why it gets kind of weird is, well, there's a road in between, so it's not really, you know, from a zoning standpoint and based on board policies, anything across the road is looked at completely different. You know, it's not included in calculations for lot size and buildings and that kind of thing. And so being it's across the road and kind of just in reality bisected from the house, do we, you know, do it as well? If he's attaching it, then it's this bigger piece, or is it something that you know, allow to be sold separately at some point in time? It's kind of a complex, complicated thing. So we process this as a lot line adjustment, not a variance, because there's a number of different ways this whole thing can be construed. So as was mentioned, the 28 acres is all lowland, swampland that would be then attached or owned, and at least as of right now by the neighbor. Would not include an entitlement. So I guess I'd rather respond to questions on this one than get too much into anything else. We did receive approval from Victor Township that they didn't have any issues with this part. So want to have the applicant discuss this. I would say, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take it from there?
Sure, thank you. Can I do
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Please, we can hear you better.
We're 6 feet. I just wear mine. Mine's easily
All
timed, and I'm loud.
Thank you.
Yes.
Whew, it's a long time wearing it. Yeah, I want, the land is across the road from me. We look at it every day. I want to protect and preserve the natural property. And I have no intentions, I don't have a building entitlement anyway. I have no intentions of building on it. The most I will do is create some paths, some walking paths in there. And, you know, I want want to protect it from any other, protect it as it is, frankly. We have, our house sits there, we look at the land almost every evening. We sit out on our deck and I do have a wood stove in my shop, you know, I would use down trees and stuff, but that's not the main reason I would get it. There's sandhill cranes over there, there's turkeys, and pheasants in the area, and it's a pleasant area, and I think it would be a very nice addition to my property. Talked to a surveyor, and if this is approved, then, and I talked to Sue, I don't know if Sue can hear me now, but Sue.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, Sue and I would go out and mark the rough edges, the surveyor recommended that, of where the tillable meets the marsh area, if you will. And so we would make sure there's really no tillable land included in it. It would all be just natural land.
Is there any on that property, looking at it, it's hard to tell what is wetland or swamp totally. Is there highland?
There is a little bit. Can I go up to the?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
My house is here. This is highland, roughly in here. A little bit is highland. And depending on where we draw the line, this is a sloping highland. But otherwise, the rest, I should take that back. And the highlands, more or less, it's all sloping, that's really pretty much marsh up there.
I'm gonna slide something over there so we got a little bit
Okay, there you go.
of view here. Maybe, you know, this way I can get it a little bit closer within the topography's a little bit different. Just a little bit better. There you can see, you know, there's, you know, a couple of higher fingers out in there.
Right. Not much, you know, a little
Great
sliver,
spots for deer stands.
basically. I didn't hear you say.
Great spot for a deer stand.
Well, yes.
Okay,
Well, of course, and then you mentioned pheasants, and lighters pick up.
yeah. Do you have anything else to add, or?
No, but any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yep. Do you have anything to add, Sue?
I only want to add sell this property to him. It's non-farmable and it's right across the road from his property, so, he or her would really love for him to have this property.
Okay. And I guess we'll come up here. Do you want to start, Dan?
Okay, I do. The question you asked, Dan, was good. My concern would be, in those higher lands, is there a buildable area in there?
Realistically, Commissioner, I mean, I'm an engineer by education, yet you can build most anywhere, but it's, most of the land, whatever is higher is sloping.
Okay.
Down to the marsh area.
Because one of my concerns is future splitting off of the land. Being there's two entitlements, I'm sure there's gonna be one to the east and one to the west, it would look like. And I just don't wanna take any future farmland out of there. So I'm thinking if there's a house in them higher area, they can keep the rest tillable. So by squeezing that out, but I wouldn't mind if that was maybe reduced to just the lowland in there, and at least leave a couple buildable spots in that existing land. That's kind of what I was looking at it at.
If I might, Commissioner,
Yeah,
that,
please
I mean, what highland there is, it does, like I say, it's all sloping. You really can't stand on any of the land without, you know, you're virtually standing on a slope, and then it comes up to the top, and as soon as you get to the top, it is tillable.
Okay, I'm sorry,
And we
I
went-
missed your first name?
Ed.
Ed.
And we would not be including any of the tillable land. It's all planted right now. It's real easy to see what is tillable.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say though that if somebody were to buy that other parcels later to build on, it'd be nice if we gave them a little area there where they could build without taking tillable out of the equation, like a 2.5 acre.
Oh, I see where you're coming from.
You know?
Yeah, it's kind of, what it is by doing this and taking all the non-tillable and putting it here, you're pretty much forcing those two remaining entitlements into the tillable ground.
Correct.
So that's kind of what the discussion is.
Yes.
I see what you're saying,
Didn't mean to
yes.
take the words out of
No,
your mouth.
I
Just kind of
appreciate it.
Summarize it a bit.
Clarify.
That's kind of
Yep.
what, I think what the concern that's being mentioned is, by doing this, you're forcing entitlements into the more prime tillable. There again, not they're gonna sell the entitlements anytime soon or anything else.
Sure.
But by doing this, it absolutely,
Limits.
there's no other choice but to put houses in the fields.
Right.
I think that's what the concern, right?
Yep. You had
I understand.
Paul?
That's an interesting perspective I didn't think of, Dan. But I think the applicant or the buyer's description, it really wouldn't, it'd have to be a significant amount of that to make that work. So I don't have a problem with allowing the division. I do have one thought is as far as not joining the property with yours, but keeping it separate. That's one thing I'd like to see if.
What I would say is this, if this gets approved and he wants to buy it, and he wants to combine the parcels into one, from a staff perspective, I would sign the form that allows it,
Okay.
but I wouldn't require it. And so that way, if at some point he wanted to sell it, or a future owner wanted to sell
Gotcha.
just that portion, that as long as it's along that, it's done the way it originally was approved, which is 7.5 and whatever else acres, that can be done. A division like this and this type of scenario would get awfully strange
Okay.
with the size and amount, and then having that road in between. It does get a little bit odd, so I wouldn't
Require it.
recommend the board require it be done that way.
Okay.
But you can join the parcel, so you just get the one tax statement,
That's what I
but
was.
it doesn't prohibit at some point, if you want to divide it back along the old property line, that it could still be done.
Okay, but it's my intention to combine it.
Right.
but-
Yeah. No, thanks for, I wanted to give you the option there, so.
All right, thank you.
But no, I have no objections.
Charlotte?
I don't have a problem with the proposal. I understand the applicant's desire to purchase this Swanson Woods land, and the notion that the two existing remaining entitlements would end up coming from tillable. Well, just about every farmstead or homestead is in tillable land, so that doesn't seem so objectionable to me, so I'm fine with it.
Okay, and I guess I have some of the same concerns as Commissioner Vick. I mean, I know it's sloping there, but you could take an acre of the tillable land and build and have an overlook over the swamp or the wildlife area would be extremely desirable. And I also thought a lot about it. If you would purchase the small square piece of tillable land, because what's there, 10 acres left to, up there in the top right corner, Barry?
Barry, do you
Approximately.
know? I don't.
I can figure it out.
I mean, if you could figure that out.
Yeah, I
I
can
mean,
figure that out
if,
pretty quick.
and I know you're probably not looking at that amount, but if it was all one portion and the entitlements were still there, it still leaves you options.
You talked about that.
Yes.
Sue and I hadn't talked about that.
I guess
Gina and
I-
I hadn't talked about it.
Yeah.
I'd be open to it, but it's totally a new discussion.
I guess as far as lot line adjustments and what's there and trying not to be into tillable land with future development, you could easily, if you had that whole portion, they could split it in two, and you could easily build on the back along some of those banks and hills overlooking the wetlands. I mean, I hate,
23.
how many?
23.
And we're looking at 28, so you're almost looking at a 40. So you're splitting it in half, making 20 acre lots, and that's not something we normally do either. Just talking through it here.
Yeah.
So,
It's more than what it looks like on paper, really,
Yeah.
I mean, for future.
See what you're
Could I ask a
going with,
question?
10 acres, but 3 kind
yeah,
of,
kind of throws it out.
yeah.
Ed would like to say something.
Yep, Ed?
Barry, would you, put up the other, would it be, I mean, just as a thought I had here, possible for the Burkholz to move the, whatever building entitlements all to the southerly chunk of, would be 60-some acres or something?
Yeah, but see, that still comes into what we're saying, all the building entitlements are going to go into an open field.
Oh, that's true.
And that's what we're,
Yeah.
we try to preserve the ag land if we can.
I see, yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. There is the quarter line.
Yep,
So, for instance, you could have done that quarter, include the tillable and everything else without even coming. That's something they could just sell to anybody on the quarter, because it leaves a quarter on the far south, and the remainder of what was done when the house was broken up, which that's very recent, they just did that. Up until last year, this was a 120 acre farm. Just cut out the house site here. Just as, informational, sometimes it's nice to see where those quarter lines do come across.
but I, as far as the lot line adjustment and him owning the wetlands, the trees, and not trying to plan anything, I'm okay with it. I mean, he's purchasing the wetlands, he's purchasing wooded,
Yeah.
no building entitlements. And, the Burkholz could in the future move building entitlements or do other things,
Yeah, on paper, I'm okay with it too. I'm just thinking in the future, it's gonna kind of cut that up and.
yeah. It's eliminating some of the building sites.
Yeah.
By allowing this. It is potentially,
And the board knows how this works. The one thing that from a staff perspective, because we've seen it, is that, the next request is, well, since that's a smaller agricultural farming piece, we want 23 acre entitlement division on the entire agricultural.
That's what'll happen.
Not saying that's going to happen, but something that, I see that as well. We get that argument so much. Now we bisected the farm up so much that, it's just not usable. We want to do it this way. So
Right.
Again, same type of thing. We've seen it.
Yeah, in my opinion, I would be in favor of that. If that just came separate here and somebody wanted to cut that off, I'd almost be in favor of that then. Because it's a natural boundary.
so I don't know how the board is, I can't exactly summarize how the board is leaning one way or another.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we pretty much are as far as, I mean, if,
Yeah. Cutting a chunk out of the middle of there.
and where I'm still challenged with is the only thing you're leaving left is agricultural land to put a house on it.
Exactly. Totally, nothing but.
And it's 20-some acres, so then you're looking at some large splits.
You know, if there were 2 10s there or whatever for sale and then him the rest, I'd be totally different. Opinion on that.
I don't know, is there,
Yeah.
do you have any input between you and Sue? I mean, would you be willing to get a little bit more of it, or?
Well, of course, I'd be willing to get more. I mean, I'm not a wealthy person, so.
Yeah.
I don't, like I say, we did not at all talk about tillable land and I.
Yeah, I think my mom just plans on, renting the tillable land out for the foreseeable future, and I don't know. We just thought this was a good option for my mom to be able to sell this to her neighbor, and we weren't really taking entitlements at that time, but.
In today's times, entitlements are very valuable and important in Wright County. And that's why we are up here on the boards are always thinking entitlements, and I sit on the planning and zoning as a representative, and entitlements are valuable. Yes. So, and then that's why with these variances sitting here as a board, we see so many of these different requests come in because of different reasons of the past of what has been done. And if we do something like this, there are a couple of, in my mind, desirable spots that could have houses built on the edge of the field. But if we split this off completely, the only places left to build a house or to do anything is in the middle of the field. And that's where you're.
Or up along the road, which then.
But that still creates corners and stuff in the field, and most people, we had one today, don't want to build on the edges, they want to go to the middle to get away from the road. I mean, if you have a 10-acre spot, you're not going to build it 50 feet off the road, you're going to go to the backside of the lot, and
Yep.
I mean, and that's what we're creating here.
Well, and there again, in this case.
Go ahead, Sue.
Could be surveyed as such that it didn't go as close to the field, or where that's sloping line?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. If they squeezed that in and left those desirables in there as much as possible, a little bit of the woods, we can back into that wood.
But then that in my mind
Yeah.
is intruding upon what he's trying to do, is to get some of the wood to cut wood and to have trails and paths, because you can't do trails and paths through the cattails.
And then the problem becomes is now his recreational land, now he could potentially have houses back right up against it.
Right.
Which then completely changes the value for him.
Yes.
Correct.
Now all of a sudden it's not as desirable as it was right now when there are no houses there. You plot 2 houses on the edge.
Yeah.
Well,
It completely ruined his
you want it,
property.
because now you got somebody else that, there again, doesn't respect property lines, or puts their house right on the back edge and overlooks, and, you recreate right there. You have a deer stand, and now all of a sudden you got a house 100 feet from you, because
And
they can't.
what could potentially happen here
That
too.
could potentially happen.
Yeah, the way
So, in this case, from neighbor's perspective, I'd want it to the edge of the field. I don't want somebody having any of that to do anything
Yeah.
with, Understand the board's perspective too, if there is a potential,
Yep.
we see 2.5 acre divisions out of farm fields all the time. There again, not that it's desirable but there again, that's the farmer doing it, they're doing what's allowed by ordinance, and it's up to the renter to farm around it, or them to farm around it. So, we need to figure out what you want to do. And move.
Okay.
I guess my hope is to just have the entitlements in the farmable land and be able to purchase what we came to ask for today.
Okay. Well, I guess we've spoke our piece. I guess if somebody wants to make a motion, we'll see where we go. Charlotte, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the lot line adjustment according to section 155.026, E02, 155.048, chapter 155, title 15 of the land usage and zoning of Wright County Code of Ordinances, division under the Berthold property, PID 21900293200 that encompasses woods and marshland is sold to the Warren who owns the 7.5 acre parcel across the road to the west. That's PID 219000301401401. The land does not have to be attached to the existing Warren property. They can be separate PIDs.
And separately saleable.
For sale, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second it, only because the township did approve it, and I guess future is pretty tough to deny two people that are in agreement, so I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion?
Just second to deed restriction and survey.
Okay. All right, we'll call for roll call vote.
Dan Vic, aye.
Was a tough one, I'm sorry.
It is, very tough.
Paul?
Paul, no.
Charlotte?
Aye.
You get to become a chairman this today, huh?
That's a tough one.
Dan Mall? Nay. Motion fails for lack of a majority.
The option would be to either have another motion or continue till the next meeting for hopefully a vote. And if the applicants come up with any type of revision in the meantime, they could.
I will be gone next month.
We're right back down to 4.
So,
Is there any alteration to this that would make it more amenable to
Where I took a 180 was the potential problem of these entitlements in the future, almost guaranteeing us building in ag land. If we can have some sort of proposal or a plan that I could say, great, we alleviated one or both of these entitlements in the middle of prime agricultural land, I would definitely approve it. But that's really where I did my 180, was after listening to everyone. That's what's kind of nice about this board, is that we do discuss things and we do have independent ideas and we do change. And unfortunately, it didn't change in the way that I originally thought.
Well, and they would have to go back because including an entitlement in this would greatly change what the value of this is.
I mean, maybe you should go back and talk about some other options and then come back. I mean, you've heard us talk and discuss amongst ourselves our dilemma, and, you know, see if you can come up with something that maybe addresses some of that concerns or negates some of these issues that we're worried about.
you know, that first 10 acres of that split off or something would be much more desirable for me, but the township has so much to weigh on me that being they pass is why I reversed 180, you know. So I'm not living there, you guys are, and you're in agreement, so.
No matter which way this goes, from what I can see, even if they included an entitlement and maybe a little bit of the ag land to get access to something, you're still gonna be left with at least one entitlement in prime farm.
Yeah.
That there is no way around that. For me, from a staff perspective, I mean, I see administratively, they can put those two entitlements in that now. And so maybe the one thing the board would want to consider is with those entitlements that require that they be clustered together in one area of the farm. That reduces that, you know, one here, one there, now you've got all those additional curves. You know, you can condition on, if future entitlements are used, they have to be used as a two-lot cluster.
If we can put, I mean, if we can make a motion to approve it with the lots having to be in a cluster with 300 feet of road frontage, you know, making them compliant.
Meeting full zoning standard, not 300 feet,
Well,
because
the
if they
full-
do 2.5, they only need 200, so.
Okay.
But if we can put the houses and put those entitlements, I mean, if we have that authority here, Barry, that, and I guess Greg
Greg will have to,
yeah, but if we can put those houses in a cluster on the prime farmland, then I can go along.
That would help me a lot.
Because otherwise, I just know what's gonna happen, what we've talked about, somebody's gonna come in here and split it in half, or you took the wetlands and all that stuff, and now, you know, it's gonna create more issues later. And as long as we can meet, you know, put the houses in a corner, whichever corner with road frontage, proper road frontage, and then I can go along with it.
council. Greg,
Do we need
can the board attach a condition to a lot line adjustment that requires the entitlements on the remaining of the farm be clustered?
I think they could. It seems like a reasonable connection to me.
Well, with the way the discussion, yeah, with the way the discussion went, it was, I mean, that's the reason why
That you could impose such a condition if it, you know, it's a logical connection to what you approved of.
which it does appear to be that way.
You're doing it as part of a lot split, so, yeah.
And the next thing would be is Susan would be the one that would want to.
Yeah, Susan, would you agree with that type of a stipulation?
Yeah, I would agree to that.
Okay,
So we need a new motion.
That'd be much easier for me to go to.
okay, we need a new motion. Charlotte, do you wanna change the motion, or do you want somebody else to do it?
I think I can continue what I started.
Okay, go ahead.
So, same language as already given, with the condition that the two entitlements be designated on the remaining property clustered together in order to conserve as much tillable land as possible.
And I second that.
And Dan would
Does that
second.
work?
Does that work? Yep. And we have a motion and a second. Dan Vick seconded that, and discussion for Barry.
That the divisions meet current ordinance standards.
And yes, you would agree with that, right, Charlotte? That conditions would meet current ordinance standards.
Yeah.
And I'm so moved, yep.
And Dan also agrees. All right, is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion? All those in favor?
No, the wording was already there for the deed restriction in the survey, so.
Yep, okay.
Dan Vick, aye?
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dan Mall? Aye. There you go, sir.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
You're good, Ed.
You're good.
Okay. Thanks.
Greg and Scott, we do have two things to take care of. Do we want to hold the closed for last? They should be really quick discussion items. Okay.
The meeting, because we're gonna turn off the recording for the.
Yep, site inspection date.
When are you guys available for site inspection?
I'm pretty much open.
I can't go Tuesday mornings, that's the only time I have. So, and I'm gonna be gone in September. So I'm, August, yeah, I mean, I'm flexible, it's just, as long as it's not on a Tuesday.
Yeah, next week I'm kind of full, that I know.
We wanna make it for Wednesday the 19th, maybe?
Wednesday the 19th.
August 19th?
Charlotte, for site inspection, Wednesday the 19th?
Works for me.
Okay, and what time?
8 here, or 8:30?
Well, I know, like,
I'll probably meet
You'll
you,
meet us.
I'll follow you from
Charlotte
the,
Bosch, you'll probably meet us. For us, we can take the van or another vehicle. It's just county policy is if you have to wear a mask in the vehicle.
Well, you gave me one now, yeah.
Or you could drive
I don't think
separately.
I can keep 6 feet distance in a car. So I will be driving with you.
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the options. We can take a county vehicle, you just need to wear a mask.
Okay.
Or you can drive yourself. So, but should we meet here at, say, 8:15 and then,
It'll be about,
say, 8:45 at the site?
yeah,
That gives us time to stop and.
about 8:30,
8:30 there.
8:35 at Southside Township Hall.
Okay,
Okay, so that'll be
Well,
the,
that sounds good that we can follow.
yes. Yep,
okay.
The 8:30 at South Side,
Yes,
and anyone that wants to ride with, just meet here.
Okay,
Say,
very good.
Okay, and then the other item is, we want to discuss changing the hearing dates from Fridays to another date. It's getting, with the number of meetings we have and the way this is working, I see no reason to keep it on a Friday, and it, from a staff perspective, it does affect our ability to take time off, quite honestly. I've had it come up 3 times so far just this year where I wanted to take a Friday off and I couldn't because the meetings are on a Friday. It's like, well, I'm thinking, well, board members too. I mean, if you wanted to take a long weekend, well, now you've got to work it around the board. Me, I'm a long weekend guy. I don't take a lot of full weeks off. I take a lot of Fridays and Mondays or Thursdays through Sunday. And, you know, just as I want to bring it up just as a possibility with the board.
I would like, I'll throw it out there right away, I would like it potentially be a Tuesday because planning and zoning is on Thursdays. So sometimes that gives me, and if Tuesdays are bad, we can work around it. I mean, it's just that sometimes
And
that
this would
means.
be for next year.
Yeah.
But
this
there are
year's
times
schedule-
when we end up with, you know, we have had it where we have a meeting on late Thursday night and I got a Board of Adjustments meeting in the morning.
Well, and that's the nice thing now, right now we're doing, this would be, we maintain our time and everything else, we just move it to Tuesday or Wednesday, and then the planning commission, it's 1 o'clock the next day.
I think
So-
Tuesday will be an issue with the county board. We won't have.
Oh,
this-
yeah, county board
We
is.
won't have this.
Okay, it's a,
Fine, Wednesday.
no, I mean,
Hey, there again, if the board wants to keep it this way, that's
No.
fine, we just wanted to bring it up as a discussion.
I can bring it up and see if we can change it. This is for next year. So if we don't have to make a decision today, then I can, see if I can shift that meeting that we have every Tuesday morning.
We can't do Tuesdays.
Can't do
Can't
Tuesdays,
do
county commissioners.
sorry.
Can we do Mondays? I like at the beginning or the ending.
No,
I like at the beginning or ending of the week because it makes the rest of the week easy.
During the board usually has committee meetings on Wednesday morning,
Okay.
and then they meet Tuesday regularly in the morning. You could maybe get away with Tuesday afternoon if you plan it a year in advance and let them know what's going on.
I don't want to be kicked out of the room like we have before. So that's the only thing, is I don't want
I
to.
don't think there's a problem.
Well, maybe then, for at least for right now, just, we brought it up, we can always revisit it. We can just keep it the way it is for now, but maybe.
Let's keep it going.
Let's get this discussion
Yeah,
going to see
yeah.
if it's a possibility and what might be out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine with that, Barry. Yep.
Okay, well, then I think the next is the, closed session, so,
we need to-
council, what do we have to do?
We need to adjourn?
We need to, well, I'll let council to tell us what we have to do.
Close off the audio.
Sir, Barry, members of the board of District of Minnesota Statute 13B.05, you're going to be closing the session so that you can engage in attorney-client privilege communication with our outside counsel, Scott Anderson. The reason for it is litigation concerning the title of Roger Keeper versus Denise Bellkeeper versus Wright County and Deers Corporation as defendant. This is under code file 86 CB 195502. Sir, I'm sorry, I went really quick there. 2 minutes. So we have a caller, that must be Charlotte, I assume? You're
Yes,
calling in?
yeah, so we need to
disconnect. So, Barry, I assume everyone else was on the meeting, and
Well-
we stopped the recording, and
Wait.
over to Scott, if you're ready.
Well, we need to stop the meeting and the recording? Are the YouTube and recording? I would assume?
Yes,
Okay.
YouTube should be done, yes,
So-
all recorded.
Cut the YouTube,